Chapter 369. A young boy's voice came from behind the door. His tone was vigilant and arrogant, so it was obvious who it was. Recalling how he was tricked by this little brat in Iceland, Ling Han's face turned green. However, he couldn't be calculative because he was still a child, so he said in a deep voice, "I'm looking for your mother." Naneo raised his eyebrows and stared at the figure outside the door. His little body was still holding his arms, and his expression was full of contempt. "Do you have an appointment? My mommy is very busy." Ling Han patiently added, "It's me." After all, they had met once in Iceland. Although there was a misunderstanding last time, Ling Han still felt that he had been very lenient to this little brat. He should at least show some basic courtesy. After a while, the voice behind the door said lightly, "I don't care who you are. Come back tomorrow." Naneo reached out and pushed the door open. He rolled his eyes at the figure outside the door, who was like a mountain to him. "Goodbye." With a bang, the door was closed. The world was silent, and the sound of water in the bathroom stopped abruptly. Yi Huanyan poked her wet head out of the bathroom, but because there was still shampoo foam on her forehead, she had to close her eyes. She held the door frame and closed her eyes as she asked, "Naneo, is someone here? Who are you talking to?" Naneo patted his little hands and softened his steps. "No one. I was just watching TV. When I opened the door, the hotel staff asked me if I wanted to eat ice cream." Hearing this, Yi Huanyan frowned. "You can't eat ice cream. Your uncle said that you have been having diarrhea for the past 2 days, so you can't eat raw and cold seafood. Where's the ice cream? Give it to me." As she spoke, she stretched out a smooth arm from the bathroom. "I didn't eat it. I told him to leave." Naneo explained helplessly. "That's more like it." After the bathroom door closed, the sound of running water filled the room again. In order to prevent the doorbell from being heard again, Naneo deliberately turned up the volume of the TV. The whole room was practically shaking. Sure enough, as soon as the volume was turned up, the doorbell light at the door lit up. "Didn't I tell you to come back tomorrow? My mommy is asleep." He impatiently opened the door a crack and yelled at the outside. Ling Han looked down at the little brat who was not even as tall as the anti-theft chain. His expression was calm as he said coldly, "I'm looking for you." In Naneo's eyes, only those who accompanied him were considered family. The so-called father, other than being related to him by blood, was almost meaningless to him. It was also a good thing that he had matured when he was young. After all, he did not have to worry about not having a father. Before he looked up Ling Han's information, he still had a glimmer of hope for his father. However, after he found out about what happened between him and his mother, he felt that it was far better for his mother to live with him, his uncle, his grandparents, and his family than with this irresponsible father of hers. In fact, it was much better, much better. "You seem to be very resistant to me." In the large room, Ling Han's voice fell into Naneo's ears through the sound of running water and the slightly lowered volume of the TV. Naneo was sitting in front of the TV, and he was sitting on the sofa diagonally opposite Naneo. In front of him was a rectangular wooden coffee table with a fruit plate and some snacks on it. Naneo looked at him warily and said bluntly, "Are you dating my mommy?" "Yes." "Then do you think that as my mommy's lover, and as my mommy's son, I should have a good attitude towards you?" Hearing this, Ling Han was a little stunned, and then he laughed. "So you're so resistant because you're worried that I won't treat you well after I'm with your mother?" "No." He shook his head, and his eyes showed a sharpness that was different from his peers. "The bigger reason is that I don't think you're sincere to my mommy." "Why do you say that? What did your mommy say to you?" Ling Han frowned and looked in the direction of the bathroom. Naneo looked at the man in front of him coldly. "I have my own judgment, and I don't need my mommy to tell me anything. I can know a lot of things to judge whether a person is worth my mommy being with him or not. It might not be appropriate to discuss his feelings with a child." What adults often did was to not take the opinions or thoughts of children seriously, but many times, children were more far-sighted than adults. Ling Han's frown deepened as he slowly spat out 2 words. "Reason." Naneo crossed his arms, and his eyes became colder. If there was a mirror at this moment, Ling Han might be able to find out that this child had something in common with him. You've been married. Your mommy was married too. After saying that, Ling Han looked at him meaningfully. And she has a son, I don't. Naneo raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a mocking smile. Will you marry my mommy? For such a sneer to appear on a 5-year-old child, it was unavoidably chilling. Ling Han suddenly remembered that he had heard from Gu Huanyan that her son had suffered a brain injury before he was born. He was different from ordinary children, especially at night. Seeing once was better than hearing 100 times. Marriage is the highest promise a man can make to a woman. If you can't do this, why should I accept you? When such mature words came from the mouth of such a little boy, it sounded pretentious. But for the first time, Ling Han took the child's words seriously. I won't. He looked at the intelligent and emotional boy in front of him seriously, and his eyes were thought-provoking. But I won't marry another woman. I've only been married to one person in my life. I don't know if you understand, but that person is the love of my life. Even if she's dead, she's still my love. And your mommy doesn't necessarily need to marry me. He had a guess in his heart that urgently needed to be verified, but he couldn't be too hasty in case he alerted the enemy. He had to take it slow. The biggest doubt in his mind right now was probably this little boy with outstanding intelligence. After Ling Han said this, Naneo frowned and muttered to himself for a while. In the end, he said, I'm going to sleep. You can leave. He needed time to think about whether the man in the information and the man in front of him who looked so affectionate were the same person. There seemed to be a difference somewhere. In the information that Gu Min gave him, this man was clearly a cold and heartless person. His mother was a soft-hearted woman. To put it bluntly, she had no principles. If it weren't for his uncle and family protecting her, she would have died 5 years ago. It was all because of this man in front of him. This was the first time in Ling Han's life that he had encountered such a rude expulsion order. But the other party was a child, and it would be ungentlemanly to be angry with a child. He frowned and got up to leave. When he reached the door, he held the doorframe and turned back to ask, When is your birthday? Chapter 370. Yi Huanyan came out of the bathroom after taking a shower. The TV was still on in the living room. Naneo's little head poked out from the sofa. He sat there motionlessly like a meditating little monk. Why aren't you going to bed? Yi Huanyan walked up and took Naneo, who was wearing Hello Kitty pajamas, into her arms. What are you watching? The Matrix. Following his gaze, Yi Huanyan looked up and saw that the TV was filled with a solemn and nervous atmosphere. She pursed her lips. Children should watch more childish things. With that said, she took the remote control on the coffee table and switched to a cartoon channel. She changed to a pet cartoon and then held a bag of snacks on the coffee table in front of Naneo. Do you want some? No, I'm brushing my teeth. Oh. Yi Huanyan ate a big bag of chips by herself and giggled at the pink bunny running around on the TV. Naneo, who was in her arms, stared at the TV expressionlessly and yawned in boredom. It's so boring. Isn't the new version of Cinderella good? It's not good. Then I'll give you the old version. The classic version is the classic version. You have good taste. Naneo pursed his lips and finally resisted the urge to refute his mother. He didn't like the old version, the new version, or the classic version. Only people who believed in fairy tales would like these things. He didn't believe in fairy tales. After watching the entire classic version of Cinderella, Yi Huanyan finally finished the third bag of chips and finally found her son sleeping in her arms. She carefully tapped his nose and then carried him to the bedroom. She carefully lifted the blanket and hugged him to sleep. Mommy. What's wrong? Mommy's here. Do you like that man? Hearing this, Yi Huanyan's heart skipped a beat. She lowered her head and looked at the man in her arms. Naneo looked at her with sleepy eyes and a puzzled expression. He obviously didn't treat you well. Why did you come back for him? Yi Huanyan frowned. Uncle told you? Or godmother? Gu Xinian and Ji Xiaoye were probably the two people who knew the most about Ling Han's mistreatment of her. All these years, Gu Xinian had often talked bad about Ling Han in front of Nanao. Nanao rarely mentioned his father in front of her, but at this moment, he seemed to already know the relationship between him and Ling Han. No. He shook his head. Uncle and godmother never said anything about it. I want to hear it from Mommy. Yi Huanyan's eyes froze, and she stared at her son in a daze. For so many years, she had never taken the initiative to mention his father in front of her son. Just because she didn't say anything didn't mean that she didn't care that she couldn't give her son a complete family. No matter how good his uncle and grandparents were to Nanao, it wasn't the love of his parents. His intelligence was different from ordinary people, and his occasional strange behavior made her feel sorry. She even wondered if it was because of the lack of fatherly love that he had developed such a mature temperament. A year ago in Florida, when he first went to the nursery, Gu Xinian was afraid that she would be worried, so he specially gave her the surveillance video of the entire nursery. Every day in the hospital, she would find out in real time what Nanao was doing, what he was learning, and whether he was getting along well with the other children. One of the things that left the deepest impression on her was that there was going to be a parent-child activity in the nursery. There was going to be an exhibition for the children's clay sculptures. Nanao's clay sculpture was a pet frisbee, and it was very beautiful. The teacher told the children to go home and tell their parents to come to the exhibition the next day. The other children happily nodded and agreed. Only Nanao asked the teacher, I don't have a father. Can my uncle come? He seemed to really not care about the fact that he didn't have a father, but the impact of not having a father on him was very significant. For example, after that day, the nursery teacher would give him a few more cookies. For example, other children would take the initiative to give him their building blocks, and even help him complete his homework. It might seem like a friendly concern, but from another perspective, it was also a form of sympathy. Nanao only stayed in the nursery for a month. Later, after he pushed down the building blocks that other children had helped him complete, Gu Xinian took him away from the nursery. After that, he changed 2 nursery schools. He never mentioned that he didn't have a father again. If he said that he didn't care, perhaps he really didn't care. But how could a child not have any impact on not having a father? Yi Huanyan felt a little guilty. She kissed Nanao's forehead and whispered, He's actually not as bad as your uncle said. And I also think that you need a father. Is it because of me? Nanao frowned. Is it because of me that you left Grandpa, Grandma, and Uncle and came back to look for him? Not all of it. Mommy knows that you're very smart and different from other children, but you may not understand the feelings between adults. Most of the time, children like a person because that person is good to them. To you, such a person is like Mommy, Uncle, Grandma, and Grandpa. Even Aunt Gings who takes care of you, or Teacher Denise in the nursery. But when you grow up, you'll find that you can't help but like a person who doesn't treat you well. It's just because you're attracted to him. Maybe it's because he's good-looking, or maybe it's because he's righteous and kind. This person may not be that good in the eyes of others, but in your eyes, he's really good. Losing him will be a fatal blow to you. At that time, you'll find that you don't ask for anything in return when you love someone. Nanao was even more confused. How can you like a person who doesn't treat you well? This is just an example. In fact, you think that he doesn't treat me well, but he's actually very good to me. From the time I first met him to when I graduated from university, he was very good to me for more than 6 years. Nanao, do you really not like him that much? It was this kind of kindness that made her feel grateful for so many years. No matter how he misunderstood her, she could forgive him. After a long time, Nanao turned over and nestled in Yi Huanyan's arms. It doesn't matter if I like him or not. Mommy, it's fine as long as you like him. Mommy, don't look for him because of me. I don't like this reason. I can live without Daddy, but I can't live without Mommy. I think you will like him. The moon was bright outside the window, and the insomniac was not far away. The ashtray was filled with cigarette butts. The phone suddenly rang and broke the silence in the room. Ling Han stubbed out the cigarette in his hand and threw it into the ashtray. He answered the phone. Xiao Dong was calling, and he sounded a little depressed. President Ling, Shang Anren has rejected the contract extension. Ling Hon frowned. What's the reason? Have they signed with other companies? No. I think Shang Anren's manager is also confused. It seems that Shang Anren is the one who made the decision. Chapter 371. In addition, Shang Anren said that she wants to withdraw from the filming of Remaining Life. When he heard this, Ling Hon frowned. Withdraw from the filming? She's going to breach the contract? Yes, the breach of contract has been paid in full. It looks like she's going to completely cut ties with our company, but we don't know why she's doing this yet. Shang Anren's sudden unilateral announcement of her withdrawal from the filming of Remaining Life was like a bomb dropped in the entertainment industry. The major media companies that had been silent for a long time released articles one after another, and what was originally a very common topic of contract breach became the #1 trending topic. Netizens had always liked to watch a good show, and Shang Anren's fans had always been hot-tempered. My sister Ran Ran was bullied by that self-proclaimed fairy sugar daddy on set, so she should have left long ago, directly triggered a second war with Guan Nai's fans. The rumor that Guan Nai was a sugar daddy was 800 years old, and it had been clarified at the time. Unfortunately, the fan war had always been fierce and vicious, regardless of the truth. For this war, the fuse was Shang Anren's disappearance, and even her agent couldn't find her. The other protagonist, Guan Nai, was too lazy to care about these trivial matters as usual. She was focused on the filming and only left a sentence to Yi Huanyan. I don't mind if you want to change my role, but I still have 3 days to finish the filming of the scenes in Hujiang other than Shang Anren. If I can't find Shang Anren in 3 days, I think it's time for me to replace him, considering the loss of funding. Su Nianhua stood behind Guan Nai with the script in his hand. We can't replace her at the last minute. It will have a certain impact on the early publicity of the movie. Shang Anren has many fans, and if her fans hate her because of this, it's not good for EA. Then get her back. Guan Nai shrugged and turned back to the lounge with her script. I don't have a problem with her, I just hate her. Yi Huanyan and Su Nianhua looked at each other. She didn't have a problem? Then what would be considered as having an opinion? Ling Han said that he didn't know where Shang Anren had gone, that was to say, even her agent didn't know where she had gone. Before leaving, he had settled all the liquidated damages of the company and the movie. He couldn't ask the police for help. When Ji Xiaoye heard about this, she clapped her hands and laughed. Did she run away because she knew you were back? These words reminded Yi Huanyan of something. Ling Han had just returned to Lanjiang City from Hujiang and was about to arrange for his men to find Shang Anren when he received a call from Yi Huanyan. On the other end of the phone, Yi Huanyan's tone was very urgent. When was the last time you heard from Shang Anren? Ling Han frowned. On the night of the Chong Sam show, my secretary called me and said that Shang Anren's agent said that she did not intend to renew the contract. The liquidated damages for the movie have been transferred to the company's account. Is there a problem? Have you asked Shang Anren's agent when Shang Anren last contacted him by phone or in person? By phone. At that time, Shang Anren should still be in Hujiang. Her agent should be in Lanjiang, so they could only contact each other by phone. Okay, I see. After saying this, Yi Huanyan hung up the phone. On the other end of the phone, Ling Han stared at the dark mobile screen in confusion and frowned. Every time on the phone, she was in such a hurry. What was wrong with Gu Huanyan? Shang Anren's agent? A clue flashed through Ling Han's mind. He quickly pressed the phone on his desk. Call Shang Anren's agent to my office. I have something to ask him. On the other side, Yi Huanyan directly looked through the mobile phone memo as soon as he hung up the phone. After finding an address, he drove directly to it. In the southern suburbs of Hujiang, in the farthest place from the main city, there was a sanatorium. The person who received Yi Huanyan was the person in charge of the sanatorium. She had been here before. The person in charge knew her, so he directly took her to the place where she had gone last time. Mr. Chow, someone is here to see you. The person in charge stood at the gate of the courtyard and shouted at the man who was watering with the sprinkler. When the man turned around, the person in charge walked away, leaving the courtyard to Yi Huanyan to talk to him. "It seems that you are not surprised at all that I am here to see you." Yi Huanyan stood in front of the flowers with his bag, and there was a clump of Chinese roses between him and Qiao Mu. The Chinese roses were in full bloom, but they made the man in the flower clump look even more lifeless. He was less than 40 years old and in the prime of his life, but now he was cooped up in such a small sanatorium, planting flowers and raising grass every day, like an old man waiting for death. "It's not your first time here. You don't need to be so surprised." He carried the sprinkler and carefully walked out of the flower clump. When he walked, one of his legs was a little weak. If one looked carefully, one would find that his leg was a little weak when it touched the ground. "I've always wanted to ask you, what happened to your leg?" "I broke it myself to remind myself not to get carried away after paying off other people's debts. It's enough to just obediently stay in the place that belongs to me." He casually skimmed over the heart-wrenching scene from 5 years ago. No one knew what kind of sin this leg was shouldering in his eyes. He broke his own leg to beg for Ling Han's forgiveness and to stop asking about the past. In exchange for the woman he loved, he could live a carefree life. He had once asked himself if it was worth it, but no matter how many times he asked himself, he would probably do the same thing again if he had the chance to do it all over again. "I came to find you because I want to ask you something. I've already finished the thing you asked me to do when you came last time. Secretary Yi, you have to keep your word." Qiao Mu picked up the cup of water on the coffee table in the hallway and drank a mouthful with a calm expression. "The thing I came to find you for can be considered the same thing as the matter from last time." Yi Huanyan smiled. "But seeing how calm you are, you should know what I want to ask you, right?" "It's just so easy to talk to smart people." "But smart people might not give you the answer you want." Yi Huanyan's expression darkened bit by bit. "Do you think you can repay what you owe others so easily? Even if you repay it, do you think she will repay it? If I die, you'll never be able to pay me back. You owe me 2 lives. Now that I'm alive, if you insist on helping her, then you owe me the life of my child and the life that I saved Shang Anren. There are 2 lives in total. That's not too much, right? She just wants to live a good life. What harm can retirement do to you? She knows her wrongs and has sincerely repented. Take it as me begging you, please let her go." Qiao Mu's expression was firm. "If you still can't vent your anger, you can take my other leg." Chapter 372. "Do I want your legs to be used as decorations in the house or something?" Yi Huanyan looked at him coldly. "In your eyes, you've already done everything you can, but in my eyes, your legs are worthless? You've been living in this sanatorium all these years, cut off from the rest of the world. Rather than calling it atonement, it's better to say that you're giving yourself psychological comfort. Some mistakes can be made up for, and some can't. Don't you know this? What exactly do you want?" Qiao Mu held onto the chair, her face pale. "I only ask that you let Enren go. You've painstakingly left a way out for her, but have you ever thought that she might not appreciate it?" Qiao Mu avoided her gaze with a complicated expression. "I don't understand what you're saying." "You really don't understand?" Yi Huanyan's face darkened. "Kidnapping is illegal. Are you crazy? I don't know what you're talking about." Qiao Mu refused to admit it. Yi Huanyan had expected this. If Shang Anren wanted to terminate her contract with pleasure, she would not have done it in such a hurry. Everything happened too suddenly. She did not think that she was that intimidating to Shang Anren, scaring her into running away after just meeting her once. Not many people knew about what happened back then. That night, after Shang Anren saw her, she must have gone to confront Qiao Mu to confirm whether she was really Yi Huanyan. That night, Shang Anren's manager only answered a phone call before terminating her contract. There was no room for negotiation. This was too strange. According to Shang Anren's protection of her fans, even if she wanted to retire, she would not have done it in such a hurry. Therefore, after confirming the urgency of this matter from Ling Han, She was almost instantly certain that there was more to it than met the eye a month ago. After coming to the sanatorium and seeing Qiao Mu, his complexion was much better than a month ago, and there was a bit of light in his lifeless eyes. What was it that made him reignite hope for life? This was only Yi Huanyan's guess. After some conversations, she gradually confirmed that Shang Anren had been detained by him. To be more precise, Shang Anren had been hidden in this sanatorium by him. When I asked you to help me find Shang Anren, you agreed too readily. This is too different from your reaction to protect her just now. From the moment you saw me, you began to plan this matter, didn't you? Should I say that you are deeply in love with her, or should I say that you are stupid? It's already been 5 years. No matter what we do, you can't forgive us, right? You clearly promised me that you wouldn't make things difficult for her. Which eye of yours saw me making things difficult for her? Although I let her play a supporting role for Guan Nai, this role won't hurt her at all. It will only make her more famous. I can guarantee this. Seeing that Qiao Mu's expression had softened, Yi Huanyan stepped forward. Qiao Mu, I don't care why you kidnapped her, but this is against the law. Quickly release her before the police arrive, and I will pretend that nothing happened. You are still young. Perhaps there are other possibilities between you and her. Qiao Mu hesitated for a long time before finally nodding. She said with difficulty, "She's in the room." Yi Huanyan did not know what method Qiao Mu used to hide Shang Anren in this room. For such a large person to obediently listen to Qiao Mu's arrangements without making a sound, it would probably be very difficult. Inside the room, Shang Anren was quietly lying on the bed. What happened to her? Yi Huanyan's heart tightened, and she reflexively wanted to turn around and ask Qiao Mu. The moment she turned around, she felt a sharp pain in her neck. Her vision turned black, and she slammed into the cold floor. The pain assaulted her, and she gradually lost consciousness. The second before she fainted, she felt especially indignant. At this time, Ji Xiaoye should have arrived a long time ago. What on earth did she do? She actually screwed up on such an important matter. Too unreliable. She did not know how long she had been unconscious for. When she woke up, she was tied to a chair in the corner, unable to move. Her mouth was stuffed with a towel, so she could only make muffled sounds. She looked in horror at Shang Anren, who was lying motionless on the bed, her face pale. The windows in the room were all covered by black curtains, not letting in a single ray of light. Only a lamp was lit at the head of the bed. The light was dim, and she could barely make out the person on the bed. Qiao Mu was not in the room. The blanket on Shang Anren's body rose and fell rhythmically. When Yi Huanyan saw this scene, her eyes froze. She then desperately moved the chair under her, trying to make some noise to wake her up. Woo-woo. When she finally got close to the bed, she viciously kicked the bed. The person on the bed coughed and faintly woke up. The first thing she saw when she woke up was Yi Huanyan, who was tied up at the end of the bed. Shang Anren's face paled, and she crawled up while clutching the blanket. She exclaimed, "Why are you here?" Yi Huanyan only felt that her situation was extremely awkward. At this moment, she wondered if her action of waking up Shang Anren was inviting trouble to herself. After all, this woman was very vicious. She might kill her to silence her at this time. Shang Anren stared at her in a daze for a while before lifting the blanket and getting off the bed. She walked up to her with a very complicated expression. After hesitating for a few seconds, she tugged at the towel in Yi Huanyan's mouth and cautiously asked, "Why are you here too?" Yi Huanyan panted and moved her masseter muscles. She looked up at her. "Don't tell me you were sleeping just now." Shang Anren creased her brows. "I was sleeping. I always felt that it wasn't safe to sleep anywhere else, so I came here." "Then when did you start to sleep?" "After the Chong Sam Show celebration party, after 12 o'clock in the evening." Yi Huanyan looked at her meaningfully, took a deep breath and said slowly, "It's been 2 days since you said it was today." Shang Anren's eyes widened. "What did you say?" "Keep your voice down," Yi Huanyan frowned and gave her a white look. "When he comes back later, you'll sleep until next year." He's back? Who's back? What's the situation? Shang Anren turned around in front of Yi Huanyan like a headless fly. Yes, why are you tied up here? There was a rustling sound in the yard outside the door. It came from far to near. Yi Huanyan glared at her fiercely and lowered her voice. If you don't want to die, go back and lie still. Shang Anren's face turned white and she hurried towards the bed. Come back, Yi Huanyan called out to her. Give me the towel back. Qiao Mu walked into the room and saw Yi Huanyan sitting at the end of the bed, sizing up the person on the bed with a horrified expression. He hesitated for a few seconds before explaining, I only gave her some sleeping pills, not too much. She'll wake up later. If you don't scream, I can give you something to eat. Chapter 373. Qiao Mu walked closer and tried to help her remove the towel that was gagging her. Seeing him approach, Yi Huanyan glared at him in disgust and turned her head away. However, because she was tied up, her gaze did not seem imposing at all. In reality, other than when she threatened Shang Anren during the Qipao show, she felt that she was very down and out in all other situations. At the very least, she was someone with a background now, so why did she keep encountering these kinds of unlucky things? Qiao Mu resentfully retracted her hand and said embarrassedly, Apologies, Secretary Yi, I don't mean to hurt you. I just want to leave this place with Anren and start anew. After we leave, the director will find you and let you go. Yi Huanyan creased her brows and whimpered at him. Do you want me to help you remove the towel? Qiao Mu asked hesitantly. She nodded, appearing a bit impatient. Don't make too much noise. Otherwise, I'll offend you. Qiao Mu glanced at her with warning in his eyes before helping her remove the towel. After removing the towel, Yi Huanyan felt that her breathing was much smoother. She took a few deep breaths to calm her emotions before looking at him and asking, Where are you taking her? Qiao Mu was packing a 24-inch suitcase, and there were passports, IDs, and other documents on the desk. When he heard this, he looked up at Yi Huanyan. To a place where no one knows us. Did you ask for her opinion? He paused in his packing. I'm doing this for her own good. When have you not done this for her own good? But isn't today's situation all because you solemnly swore that you were doing this for her own good? Yi Huanyan's eyes were very sharp. For her own good, you agreed to help her change the DNA test report back then. For her own good, you connived with her instigating Yin Guagua to hit me with a car. For her own good, you made me promise you that she was the real murderer behind Ling Han's back. For her own good, you're even going to pack and take her away without her consent. Have you ever thought about what you did right when you said you were doing for her own good? Enough. Qiao Mu coldly interrupted her, but her back was already soaked with cold sweat. Have you ever thought that it was you who spoiled her step by step and made her become what she is now? Yi Huanyan looked at him coldly with pity in her eyes. You didn't figure it out 5 years ago. It's true that you lost your job because of her, but you asked for it. You're such an unprincipled person. No matter how much you've sacrificed, you deserve it even if you break your legs or lose your life. Do you think you can win her heart? Look at yourself now. Qiao Mu's face was flushed red. She deliberately hid her lame leg behind the desk as if she had a guilty conscience. She held the corner of the desk with both hands and trembled all over. You're crazy. I think you're crazy. Yi Huanyan's face was apathetic, and her pair of icy eyes stared fixedly at Qiao Mu, her eyes full of loathing. The atmosphere in the room became subtle. There was a deathly stillness, and even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Don't blame him. The woman's voice broke the deadlock, and Qiao Mu's eyes froze. She stiffly looked in the direction of the bed, her eyes full of astonishment. Shang Anren slowly lifted the blanket and stood up. Her face was pale as she knelt on the floor with a plop. She lowered her head in Yi Huanyan's direction and said in a choked voice, I was the one who made all the mistakes. It has nothing to do with him. He has his own principles and bottom line. I was the one who begged him again and again, and I even used our relationship to coerce him. I was also the one who ordered Yin Guagua to hit you. He didn't know about any of this at all. It was my fault from beginning to end. Qiao Mu dragged one leg to her side and held her shoulder, but she could not say a word. She could only kneel in front of Yi Huanyan with her. I was jealous of you. I was jealous that you could win Ling Han's heart. At first, I thought you were the mistress who came between us, but later I found out that I was the one who came between you two. Or rather, I was just lying to myself and insisted on squeezing between the two of you. When I saw the bedroom on the second floor of the old villa, I knew that your importance in his heart was not something that we women could compare to. It was ridiculous that I had always called myself Mrs. Ling and thought that he treated me differently from other women. I thought that as long as I was obedient and didn't make any mistakes, he would eventually marry me one day. At this point, she looked up at Yi Huanyan while crying and laughing at the same time. Later on, when I found out about your existence, I realized that I was different from other women. It was just that I was smart enough to know when to advance or retreat and never cross the line. Qiao Mu supported her tottering body, and her voice was hoarse. But in his heart, a woman who doesn't cross the line will never be able to become his wife. At most, she will be a rumored girlfriend. I have seen what he is like when he truly loves someone. He is jealous because of you and treats you well in silence. The gentleness in his eyes when he looks at you drives me crazy with jealousy, so I thought that if you weren't there, perhaps he would put up with it and I could also enjoy this kind of gentle treatment. Tears streamed down Shang Anren's face, and her eyes seemed to be filled with endless remorse. The unwillingness that she saw 2 days ago had already completely disappeared. She only stared blankly at Yi Huanyan, seemingly scrutinizing her face. In the end, she took a deep breath and said in a choked voice, 5 years have been long enough. I wasn't able to become that kind of person. He still only has you in his heart. Even if you are completely different from before, he still only has you in his heart. Qiao Mu held her shoulder, gratification floating in her eyes. She looked up at Yi Huanyan and cautiously said, I will do my best to repay what I owe you. No matter what you want me to do, I will do my best to do it. I only ask that you let her go. Are you done yet? Yi Huanyan's face was ashen. Tying me up in this kind of place and kneeling in front of me to force me to accept your repentance. Are you kidding me? Qiao Mu's expression was resentful, but she was unwilling to untie the ropes. Yi Huanyan's current status was incomparable to the past, and the Gu clan financial group's international influence was also extraordinary. Under this kind of background, he and Shang Anren were merely fish on the chopping board, at the mercy of others. Even though Yi Huanyan was tied up right now, he still did not dare to lay a finger on her. I don't plan on doing anything to you. I just want Shang Anren to finish filming my movie as the second female lead. This role suits her very well. Although she's not the female lead, I don't have any intention of bullying her, right? You can leave if you want, but if you don't film just because you say so, where am I going to find people at the last minute? Can you be a little more professional? Hearing this, Shang Anren creased her brows and looked at Yi Huanyan in confusion. She even spoke with a heavy nasal voice. I don't have any intention of not filming. You don't, but a certain person who made you sleep here for 2 days does. Yi Huanyan's gaze faintly circled Qiao Mu. What do you think? Chapter 374. Shang Anren was a smart person. After carefully connecting the dots with Yi Huanyan's words, she more or less understood her situation and the reason for it. She took the initiative to untie Yi Huanyan. Qiao Mu tried to stop her, but she turned around and stood in front of Yi Huanyan. Qiao Mu, I've thought about it. I'll go with you, but I want to finish filming this movie. Yi Huanyan looked at the back of the figure blocking her in astonishment. She could not see Shang Anren's expression, but she saw the astonishment on Qiao Mu's face gradually turn placid. He slowly curled his lips, revealing a very gentle smile. He opened his mouth and uttered, "Okay." After untying the ropes, Yi Huanyan moved her arms and extended her hand toward Qiao Mu. "Where's my bag?" Qiao Mu quickly bent down and took out Yi Huanyan's bag from under the desk. A trace of envy flashed through Shang Anren's eyes. There were even tears in her eyes, but she could not help but cry out in surprise. "How did you get Gucci's latest bag?" Yi Huanyan tugged at her lips. This woman was truly as crazy about all kinds of luxury bags as the news said. "Our relationship doesn't seem to be good enough to talk about bags together." Shang Anren looked resentful and lowered her head in embarrassment. However, she still could not help but take a few more glances at her bag from the corner of her eyes. She flipped open her phone and saw that there were indeed missed calls from Ji Xiaoye. "I'm leaving first. I still have something to do. Report to the set tomorrow morning." After glancing at Shang Anren, she walked out of the room and returned Ji Xiaoye's call. "Where are you?" Ji Xiaoye's voice came from the other end of the phone. "The sanatorium. I'm just about to come out. I was just with Qiao Mu." Don't come out." Ji Xiaoye's voice inexplicably lowered. "Ling Han is in the sanatorium. If he knows that you came to find Qiao Mu, won't your identity be exposed?" "What?" Yi Huanyan paled. "Why would he come to find Qiao Mu? I'll tell you about it when you come out. I'll circle around the sanatorium. If there's a back door, I'll wait for you there. Don't come out from the front door, or you'll run into them." Ji Xiaoye urged on the other end of the phone. Hello. The phone was busy. Yi Huanyan stood in the corridor and looked at the tall and hurried figure at the entrance of the courtyard. She revealed a stiff smile. At this time, if she said that it was a coincidence, it would make her seem especially stupid. Therefore, she calmly walked down the stairs and walked towards him. "President Ling, you're too late. I've already settled the matter." Ling Han frowned and looked into the room. "What did you solve?" "Shang Anren has agreed to continue filming Remaining Life." "She's here?" Ling Han stared at her, his tone very aggressive. "Why is she here? And why do you know she's here?" Just as they were talking, two people walked out of the room. They were probably mentally prepared as they calmly walked behind Yi Huanyan. Qiao Mu held Shang Anren's shoulder without any hesitation. She frowned, her eyes full of guilt. "President Ling, I wasn't asking you." Ling Han merely glanced at them indifferently before his gaze returned to Yi Huanyan's face. He had just found out about Qiao Mu and Shang Anren's relationship, but it was not important to him right now. "I'm asking you, why do you know so much? Don't forget who I am." Yi Huanyan raised her eyebrows and smiled magnanimously. "As the second miss of the Gu family, if you can't even find someone, then don't embarrass yourself here. As for your ex-girlfriend and your ex-assistant, I don't think it's convenient for me to know. It seems a bit awkward for me to be here. If you don't mind, I'll leave first." Ling Han did not stop her and only turned around to watch her quickly disappear from his sight. Then, he slowly returned to his senses and sized up the couple in front of him. Finally, his gaze landed on Qiao Mu's face. "When did this happen?" His voice was very low, but his tone was very calm. There were many things that were difficult to say, and that was the case for Qiao Mu. However, Shang Anren did not. She coldly gazed at Ling Han and remained composed. "We got together 5 years ago. The things that Qiao Mu did before actually had nothing to do with him. I was the one who made him do it. I was the one who threatened him to do it. I used the video of me sleeping with him." A cold glint surfaced in Ling Han's eyes. "Is that so? It has nothing to do with him at all? Then why did he defend you with all his might when I asked him why he did those things?" Qiao Mu's face was pale. She gritted her teeth but did not know what to say. Shang Anren held his arm, and her gaze became more resolute. "You don't have to be so overbearing. It's true that I did wrong, but Yi Huanyan has always been loyal and devoted to you. I created a misunderstanding between you and Yi Huanyan and even caused the death of her child. This is my sin, and I will bear it. However, this is what I owe Yi Huanyan. We don't owe you anything." Ling Han stood at the entrance to the courtyard and coldly looked at Qiao Mu, as if waiting for his response. He and Shang Anren were just putting on a show. Indeed, there was no such thing as anyone owing anyone anything. They both brought it upon themselves, and it was the cycle of karma. However, he was different from Qiao Mu. They were university classmates and had worked together for many years. Qiao Mu owed him an explanation. Under the corridor, the night breeze gently brushed past. Qiao Mu pulled his arm out of Shang Anren's grasp and walked down the stairs alone to stand in front of Ling Han. He walked slowly, but if one looked closely, it could be seen that one of his legs was inconvenienced. "Sorry, Ling Han." He stood in front of him, less than half a meter away. The scene seemed to have turned back to many years ago on the football field of America's H University. When he accidentally kicked the football into Ling Han's face, his apologetic attitude was simple and sincere. It was just a few words. "Sorry, Ling Han." At that time, Ling Han only climbed up from the ground and kicked the ball back to the field. Then, after the game ended, he gave him a hug. "You played well. Let's go drink." He really wanted to go back to that year, but he already felt that it was a matter of his previous life. Ling Han looked at him, and his cold gaze gradually relaxed. He then asked, "Tell me, is it her?" Qiao Mu was stunned for a few seconds before nodding dazedly. "It's her. She's back." Ling Han curled his lips, his face full of gentleness. He turned and walked in the direction she disappeared to, leaving behind a sentence with his back to Qiao Mu. "Since she's back, then I accept your apology and forgive you." Qiao Mu stood in place. He was 1.8 meters tall, but he swayed in the breeze, almost unable to stand. Shang Anren hastily went down the stairs and supported him. "Are you okay?" Qiao Mu shook his head, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. No one could understand the complicated feelings in his heart. He was thankful that she was still alive. He was thankful that he still had the chance to obtain Ling Han's forgiveness while he was still alive. "Do you care about his forgiveness that much?" Shang Anren frowned. "I always thought that he was only your boss." Qiao Mu took a deep breath and held her shoulder. His voice was hoarse. "Anren, did I tell you before that I was an orphan and didn't have many friends since I was young? Ling Han is my first true friend." Chapter 375. After exiting the sanatorium, Yi Huanyan clutched her chest as she panted heavily by the roadside. While she still had lingering fears, she also guessed that Ling Han probably didn't chase after her because he wanted to ask Qiao Mu about her. Based on her understanding of Qiao Mu, he definitely would not help her lie. That was awkward. After getting into Ji Xiaoye's car, she took a sip of water from the cup and slumped weakly in the back seat. "How did Ling Han know I was here?" Ji Xiaoye squeezed her shoulder and said helplessly. When Shang Anren's manager heard that she wanted to leave the entertainment industry, she revealed everything about her relationship with Qiao Mu. Plus, Shang Anren previously agreed to be the second female lead, so he probably knows everything by now. "You can't hide your identity anymore. You can also refuse to admit it." Gu Xinyan's voice came from the driver's seat. Ji Xiaoye glanced at him and grumpily said, "Why are you refusing to admit it? If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let Shang Anren know so much. Once this woman got involved, she was bound to ruin things. Now look, not only did she fail to torment Ling Han, but she also had to be tormented by him. Does he have such great ability? Yan Yan is the second miss of my Gu family." Yes. "Your Gu family is awesome. The Gu family is the most awesome in the world, alright? What are you showing off for?" These two people went back and forth, giving Yi Huanyan a headache. She frowned and waved her hand. "Alright, it's fine if I can't hide it. I don't plan on hiding it from him for long. Since he knows, it's not a big deal. I'll just admit it. You're letting that scumbag off the hook so easily? That's letting him off too easily." Ji Xiaoye indignantly slapped Yi Huanyan's thigh. "You may agree, but I don't. I haven't tormented him enough. I have an idea." Gu Xinyan's voice faintly cut in. "What if Yan Yan admits her identity and tells Ling Han that Naneo is the child of Yan Yan and another man? This is a good idea." Ji Xiaoye clapped and laughed. "Didn't this guy always suspect that our Yan Yan cheated on him? Let's give them a taste of their own medicine. I don't think so. Yi Huanyan frowned. Nanao was 5 years old. I didn't have any contact with other men during that time. Ji Xiaoye's eyes lit up. Su. Stop. Yi Huanyan interrupted her before she could finish. He and Xiao Rou are still arguing. You can say that it's mine. Gu Xinyan's meaningful gaze was reflected in the rear-view mirror. If he knew that the Gu family didn't agree to you marrying into the family after you were married and had no choice but to adopt you as an adopted daughter in name because of your child so as to avoid gossip, what do you think he would think? The car fell into an eerie silence. Ji Xiaoye clapped her hands. I think your brother is suitable to be your scriptwriter. His talent is simply perfect. Suitable. Why do I keep feeling that something is wrong? Yi Huanyan frowned. Faced with an extremely scheming brother and a best friend who stirred up trouble, why did she feel more and more like she was being led into a ditch? Back at the hotel, Nanao was forcibly taken away by Gu Xinian on the grounds that he didn't want to disturb Mommy's writing of the script, leaving Yi Huanyan alone in the room. It didn't take long for the doorbell to ring, which was within her expectations. She opened the door, and it was also within her expectations. Why are you here? She lowered her head, feeling very guilty. Ling Han entered the room and closed the door behind him. He stared straight at Yi Huanyan's face and said in a deep voice, I'm here to see you. What's there to see about me? Yi Huanyan took a step back, and he took a step forward. You're very good looking, whether it's now or in the past. I don't know what you're talking about. Compared to that very talented script, Yi Huanyan preferred the script that her brother had said to refuse to admit to the law. Yi Huanyan, how much longer do you want to hide it from me? He approached her step by step and forced her into a corner. He was not willing to back down at all. In the end, he used a bullying attitude and blocked her from both sides with his arms. He surrounded her in a closed circle, forcing her to raise her head and look into his eyes. In the past 5 years, why didn't you give me any news about you, even if it was news that you were still alive? Why did you become the second daughter of the Gu family? What's with your identity? Whose child is Nanao? He's mine, right? Yi Huanyan, just how many things have you done behind my back? His continuous questioning was like tearing open her wound and sprinkling salt on it again. She gritted her teeth, steeled her heart, and looked up. When she did, her eyes were already indifferent and slightly distant. I'm not her, and I don't want to be her. Ling Han's face darkened, and he said coldly, Yi Huanyan, are you done fooling around? Who's fooling around? Wake up. Yi Huanyan looked at him coldly without any fear. Qiao Mu told me everything. Really? You said that I'm Yi Huanyan? She sneered. It's just a way to find a way to get Shang Anren to act in a movie again. It's not difficult for me to find out about those melodramatic things between you two. What if I insist that you're her? His domineering attitude reminded Yi Huanyan of the many times she had been hurt by him. She clenched her fingers, steeled her heart, and raised her hand high up. A slap resounded in the room. Ling Han did not dodge and took the slap head-on. A red mark instantly appeared on the right side of his face. Under his persistent gaze, Yi Huanyan said with conviction, I don't know who gave you the misconception that I'm your deceased wife who died 5 years ago, but I'll tell you clearly now. My name is Gu Huanyan, and I have nothing to do with her from my looks to my life experience. She took a deep breath at this point, and her voice was choked with sobs. I'm not interested to know what that stupid woman called Yi Huanyan went through at your hands. It's best if you don't involve me in how you want to make it up to her. No one needs to replace a woman with no self-esteem, principles, and brains like her. Do you understand? Do you understand? Even if I'm her, I really don't want to be her. Those days 5 years ago were too hard. I'd rather erase the first half of my life and let those experiences become a blank slate. Or even casually create someone else's manager and put it on my body, than let myself become Yi Huanyan again. Do you understand? After saying this, she looked at him in silence for a long time. She could not control the violent rise and fall of her chest, and the pain and anger that she had suppressed for 5 years. Previously, he said that he saw hatred in her eyes. Yes, perhaps she had never seriously faced her own inner feelings. Yes, she hated him. Her love was too strong, and when she could not get the response she wanted, it was inevitable that she would hate him. Even if she had traveled thousands of miles to come here and sincerely wanted to continue their relationship, before the hatred disappeared, she could not make herself accept him wholeheartedly. She had been hurt all over, and the remaining sincerity was already shattered. She could only test it again and again, and again, and again, but there was no end in sight. Ling Han looked at her with certainty. After a long time, his thin lips moved slightly, and he spat out 3 words that could not be denied. "You're her. I'm sure that you're her." Chapter 376. I'm not. Yi Huanyan used all her strength to push him away. She looked at him coldly, her face pale. She was willing to start anew with a new identity, and no one could stop her. Anyone who forced her to find her past memories had bad intentions in her eyes. "Since you're back, it means that you're willing to give me another chance. Then why don't you come back with your original identity? Do you know how I've been all these years? Are you done?" Yi Huanyan looked indifferent. Perhaps the painful memories of the past were too deep, so she always tried her best to forget the crimes and scars that he had forced on her. But he just had to bring it up. There was no need to remember those days full of sadness and disappointment. She hated those memories, and hated her cowardly self at that time. Ling Han stood in the corner, his eyes full of pain. Yen, let's start anew, okay? Start anew." She really wanted to start anew. She thought that when the truth was exposed, she would just admit it. But when he really stood in front of her, peeling off her disguise layer by layer, laying out the bloody past in front of her, she realized that starting anew was actually such a difficult thing. "Get out." Yi Huanyan walked quickly to the door with a cold face. She opened the door, looking like she was chasing him out. At first, she thought that it was very ungentlemanly to refuse to admit her identity after being exposed, but now she felt that admitting her identity was the most embarrassing thing. Did she have to admit in front of him that even though she was covered in wounds, she still survived and crawled back, and even changed her identity to get close to him again? This childish love game was really annoying. The whole world revolved around him, and she had had enough of those days. After her rebirth, she lived for herself, so she didn't come back to find him. The coldness in her eyes was something that Ling Han had never seen before. Such a gaze almost made him believe for a moment that she was indeed another person. But when he thought about how her changes might all be due to him, and that he was the one who destroyed and reborn her, he only felt his heart shatter. "Okay, I'll go." Ling Han gritted his teeth and stared in Yi Huanyan's direction. "But you have to promise me that you won't suddenly disappear again." Yi Huanyan lowered her head and avoided his gaze, but her voice was much softer. "I came back to shoot a movie. Since the movie isn't finished, I naturally won't leave." Ling Han walked out of the room, and without waiting for him to say anything, there was a click behind him, and the door was instantly locked. The inside and outside of the room fell into silence. The only difference was that behind the gloomy silence outside the house, there was also a person's inner ecstasy. To him, this was a miracle that the heavens had blessed him after 5 long years of loneliness, allowing him to usher in the miracle of life. Inside the room, Yi Huanyan looked at the closed door and stood alone for a long time. She waited until the footsteps outside the door were far away before she retracted her hand from the door handle. She slowly turned around and walked towards the bedroom. The next day, Shang Anren entered the set. The first scene was with Guan Nai. In this scene, Shang Anren needed to slap Guan Nai. After a few scenes, Yi Huanyan was not very satisfied. As A-list actors, Shang Anren and Guan Nai didn't cooperate very well. This slap was very not in place, and the traces of a fake slap were too obvious. After calling for a stop, Guan Nai glanced at Shang Anren, took the water handed over by the assistant, and walked towards Yi Huanyan. She sat down directly beside her and watched the playback in the camera. "It's still too obvious, right? This scene is okay." Yi Huanyan frowned and looked serious. But if you look carefully, there's still a time difference between Shang Anren's strength and the expression on your face. An insider can see that it's exposed. Guan Nai's tone was indifferent. Why don't we hit her for real? It's just a slap. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. For real? Yes, for real. You have no objections, right? Guan Nai glanced at Shang Anren behind the camera. Her tone was very relaxed and even a little teasing, as if she wasn't the one who was going to be hit later. Shang Anren was drinking water. She was stunned for a few seconds and frowned. Me? Of course I have no objections, but I can't guarantee that one scene will pass. These words were meaningful. Everyone could hear the glint of swords between the words. That's simple. Guan Nai lazily rested a hand on Yi Huanyan's arm. I'll add one more condition. I feel that the dramatic tension in this script isn't obvious enough. How about after you hit me, I'll slap you back? That way, there will be more conflict. When Guan Nai said, "How about I slap you again?" her tone was as calm as if she was drinking water, as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. Only Shang Anren's face paled slightly. That's not so good. Right? Yi Huanyan resentfully looked at the two big-name actresses in front of her. One was someone she couldn't afford to offend, while the other was someone she promised Xiao Mu not to make things difficult for. What should she do? Better not hit her for real. If her face swells up, it won't be easy to film later. Yi Huanyan insisted on a fake slap, while Guan Nai suggested a real slap. Shang Anren agreed to a real slap, but she refused to add another scene to avoid being at a disadvantage. The entire crew watched helplessly as the smoke of gunpowder filled the air between the two actresses. They rolled their eyes and scolded them indirectly. It could be said that this was the biggest scene of the year. Director Wong had been keeping an eye on the props all morning, so he arrived late. He didn't notice the subtle atmosphere when he first arrived, but when he saw the few clips filmed in the morning, he immediately showed a displeased expression. What the hell are you filming? It's so obvious that you're giving yourself away. In this clip, your face dodges before the slap even hits your face. The audience isn't blind. In this clip, it's just a slap, and you fall to the ground and can't get up. Isn't it too cowardly? It's time for the female lead to come back. Where's her aura? Everyone listened to Director Wong's lecture. Even Yi Huanyan didn't dare to breathe loudly. They silently brought over Director Wong's teacup and handed it to him. Please have some tea. Guan Nai listened for a while and said faintly, Yes, I also think it's not appropriate to do this, so I just proposed a real slap. What do you think, Director Wong? Director Wong came to appreciate Guan Nai, so he was even more appreciative when he heard this. You're willing to make this kind of sacrifice, so of course I agree. Moreover, you're the one getting hit, so what's there to agree or disagree about? Is there anyone else who has a problem with this? These words made some people feel uncomfortable. Shang Anren was not a person who would be bullied for no reason, so she immediately stood up. Director Wong, I don't disagree, but Guan Nai means that she still wants to add another scene. I just don't agree with her casually changing the script. Add another scene? Director Wong paused in his action of drinking tea, covered the teacup, and asked, What scene? Let's hear it. Chapter 377. Shang Anren glanced at Guan Nai and said in a deep voice, Guan Nai wants to add a scene where she slaps back after being hit. I don't think it's in line with the kind character of the heroine. Compared to Shang Anren's obvious resistance to the addition of scenes, Guan Nai was much calmer. She looked at Director Wong calmly and had no intention of explaining her opinion at all. She said faintly, Actually, I'm just giving a suggestion. Whether it can be changed or how it will be filmed after it is changed, that's the director and scriptwriter's business. Director Wong glanced at Yi Huanyan and asked, What do you think? Two A-list actresses, a senior director, and the treasure of the crew, Yi Huanyan could not afford to offend any of them. She could only smile and kick the ball back into Director Wong's hands. You have the most experience, so we'll listen to you. Director Wong touched his chin and said thoughtfully, "In fact, experience also needs to keep pace with the times. In fact, we used to pay more attention to the dramatic tension in the plot, but recently I watched a TV series and feel that it's a good way to show this point in detail. The slap that Nai Nai suggested is good, but I think the dramatic tension can't be opened with just one slap. It will only make the audience feel bored and tired." As soon as he said this, Shang Anren was the first to agree and said, "Director Wong is indeed a great director. You see this clearly." As soon as the voice fell, Director Wong continued, "One slap is not enough, let's start with 10. Pfft. Yi Huanyan had just taken a sip of water to calm herself down, but because of Director Wong's understatement, she was so scared that she spat out all the water. She said in disbelief, 10, 10? Yes, Director Wong said seriously, there are too many heart-wrenching scenes in the script of Remaining Life. The audience won't be able to stand it. We have to give the audience some hope and the pleasure of venting. Since the heroine has been reborn, it's too easy to just slap her back. Let's do it more, we might as well go from venting to the audience until they laugh." Yi Huanyan stole a glance at Shang Anren, and his face was livid. This time, it was Director Wong's fault. What did he mean by shooting yourself in the foot? Yi Huanyan felt that this phrase might be tailor-made for Shang Anren. After the script was adjusted, the shooting started again. Yi Huanyan stared at Team A's camera and pulled a long shot. Shang Anren and Guan Nai, who had just returned to China, met on the narrow road at the entrance of the community. The two people didn't agree with each other. Shang Anren raised his hand and slapped Guan Nai directly. His raised arm looked like a swift wind. When the camera zoomed in, Guan Nai's muscles twitched on the face. This slap looked very real. Guan Nai's eyes reddened, and she looked at Shang Anren in disbelief. Her gaze suddenly tightened, and she slapped him. Guan Nai's clear voice came from the receiver. "Do you really think I'm easy to bully?" Cut. Director Wong called for a stop and replayed the scene. "Awesome." Yi Huanyan looked at the replayed scene with a look of surprise. During the break, Guan Nai suddenly began to squat on the ground and do all kinds of warm-ups, arm wrestling, leg stretching, and so on, which scared the crew. Yi Huanyan pulled Guan Nai and lowered his voice. "Go easy on him for the next scene. That's enough." Although the two of them had been at odds for a long time, they had only filmed a small part of the scene. If something happened here, it would be terrible. Guan Nai looked at Yi Huanyan with a teasing smile. "Why do you feel sorry for her? Shouldn't you hate her a lot? Have you forgotten all those things when you were in Bali?" Yi Huanyan's eyes froze. "What's wrong with you?" She had never mentioned her identity to Guan Nai, and 5 years ago, she didn't have much interaction with Guan Nai. Guan Nai stood up, glanced at her lightly, and whispered, "Would you believe me if I said that I actually rely on smell to judge people?" The next scene started shooting, followed by Guan Nai slapping Shang Anren. Director Wong suddenly thought of adding 9 consecutive slaps. How gossipy the crew was depended on how many onlookers there were. Even Xiao Zhang, who usually went out to buy coffee for an hour to slack off, ran back and panted as he squeezed his way to the front of the crowd to watch. Guan Nai moved her arms and glanced at Shang Anren contemptuously. She looked like she was going to do something big. Shang Anren's face was pale and her voice trembled. "Guan Nai, you can't do something like taking revenge, right?" "That's not necessarily true." While speaking, the assistant stepped forward to adjust the hidden receiver on the two people. After the adjustment, Director Wong gave an order. "Action." As soon as the voice fell, a pa sound echoed violently in the air. The whole group was stunned. Shang Anren covered his face and looked at Guan Nai in front of him in disbelief. This slap was really ruthless. Across the camera screen, Yi Huanyan trembled and her heart clenched. How much hatred did this have? "Are you crazy?" Shang Anren's anger was completely acting out. Guan Nai fixed her eyes on Shang Anren, and Shang Anren tilted her head. Then there was another slap. While everyone took a breath of cold air, the set was silent and no one heard the slap. There were 7 slaps left in a row, which looked very fierce in the camera. Coupled with Shang Anren's stunned expression, as Director Wong said, it was full of indescribable dramatic tension. What was not funny was that these two people seemed to be acting in a mime, and there was no sound at all. After a long while, they finally heard Guan Nai say, "Do you think I came back just to take your man?" Guan Nai's voice came from the receiver. Yi Huanyan calmed down and continued to shoot. "I want to tell you, in addition to your man, there are also everything you took from me. I will take it back from you one by one, including identity, status, and men are just one of them." The sharp lines and the tacit cooperation between the heroine and the supporting role made people dare not make a sound. They only dared to watch this scene with bated breath, as if they were already in the cinema. After the humorous and absurd 9 slaps, it was the heroine's seemingly cold but already turbulent emotions. Xiao Amo. At this time, Su Nianhua's voice passed through the camera. The B group's camera zoomed in and swept over Su Nianhua's back. Cut. Director Wong's voice broke the silence of the set. Scattered applause sounded around, and it was a perfect ending. The most important thing between actors is a sense of trust. This is a kind of spirit. It looks like a slap with a lot of force, but when it hits the face, it's just a light slap. In the eyes of the audience, this slap is already quite strong. With such a high level of cooperation, this is a sense of trust. Director Wong picked up the teacup beside him and looked at the camera with gratification, praising. "That was a real slap," Yi Huanyan reminded in a low voice. "That also means that Shang Anren took the slap very well. His expression was very natural, and he didn't call for a stop midway. He was very professional. After the first touch, Nai's subsequent slaps were also very accurate. That wasn't a real slap." Yi Huanyan smiled awkwardly. Shang Anren didn't call for a stop, probably because he was stunned. Director Wong's analysis was really. Chapter 378. After the slap scene was over, it was time for the lunch break. Ling Han personally carried the thermal box to the scene, and everyone's jaws dropped in shock. He had treated the entire crew to hot pot before, but this time, he went straight to the point and asked to deliver lunch to Yi Huanyan. Under everyone's ambiguous gazes, Yi Huanyan felt as if she was sitting on pins and needles. "What are you doing here?" Ling Han opened the lunchbox and took out the food inside. There were 2 dishes and 1 soup. The soup smelled strong and he said concisely, "I'm here to deliver lunch." "I have lunch here." Yi Huanyan pointed at the lunchbox in front of her and shrugged. "I don't need a busy person to deliver lunch to me." "I am not busy." "Really? So did you cook all these yourself?" Yi Huanyan glanced at him, took her lunchbox, and unwrapped the rubber band that was tied to it. "What's the difference between your nanny's cooking and the lunchbox ordered by the crew?" Ling Han's hand that was holding the soup paused slightly, and he looked resentful. "Then I will cook for you when I get back." Yi Huanyan felt that she was choked by the food. She quickly waved her hand and said, "You really don't have to trouble yourself. President Ling, I'm very busy here. When you came, my producer was trembling with fear. He was afraid of offending the investors. He even had to send several people to serve you tea and water. It's really not good to delay my progress. You can't drive me away with this kind of reason." Ling Han looked at her. Yen, no matter what you are angry about, I can take it, but I will not leave." "Is the Yen you are talking about Gu Huanyan or Yi Huanyan?" Yi Huanyan put down the lunchbox and looked at him seriously. "It is you." "Who am I?" Ling Han didn't say anything, but his affectionate expression that carried a bit of pain and sorrow had already explained everything. Yi Huanyan took a deep breath and felt very tired. "How about this? Before you find evidence to prove that I am the person you are talking about, let's go our separate ways. Calm down, okay? But you are her. Look at me from head to toe. Which part of me looks like her? How can you bring back a dead person?" His attitude was too cruel. After he said those words, Yi Huanyan noticed the sadness in his eyes and regretted it. After a long silence, Ling Han finally found his voice. Will you admit it and give us a chance to start over if I find evidence to prove that you are her? Yi Huanyan lowered her head and did not answer. If you don't say anything, I will take it as a yes. Ling Han stood up with a determined look in his eyes. All right, as you wish. Let's part ways temporarily. But it's not to calm down. I've been calm for long enough. 4 or 5 years, I've been trying to calm myself down. I don't care if you really want evidence or if you just want me to leave your side temporarily. I'll look for it and find the original you and us. Yi Huanyan looked at his back and secretly clenched her fists. Most of the time, we don't mean what we say. Most of the time, we just can't get over the hurdle in our hearts. During the filming in Hujiang, Ling Han did not appear again. However, he would order 3 meals a day to be delivered to the set on time. Even if she wasn't on set sometimes, he seemed to know her schedule accurately. Even when she went to the award ceremony, he would send her a bowl of hot chicken soup when she was touching up backstage. For the past month, he had not missed a single one of the 3 meals a day. Ji Xiaoye took Naneo to visit the set. When she saw the table full of dishes, she sighed. We both turned over a new leaf, but why is your treatment so much better than mine? Yi Huanyan leaned against the sofa and rested. When she heard this, she glanced at Ji Xiaoye. My brother doesn't treat you well? It's not that. I just feel that he has been hiding something from me recently. Ji Xiaoye lowered her head, looking like she had a lot on her mind. What do you think? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Why do you think so? Didn't my brother just come home the day before yesterday? Uncle has been missing for 2 days. He hasn't contacted godmother for 2 days. Naneo was playing games on the sofa when he casually explained. There was a strong sense of sadness in his voice. He disappears as soon as he comes home. Ji Xiaoye sat down next to Yi Huanyan. She rested her head on her shoulder and sighed. What's wrong with your brother? Yi Huanyan frowned. Maybe it's because he wants to protect you. Someone wants to kill me and protect me. Can't you think of a decent excuse for your brother? Yi Huanyan pursed her lips. After thinking for a while, she said, Did my brother tell you that I have a cousin? She's my aunt's daughter. Her name is Gu Duo. Ji Xiaoye shook her head and gradually sat up straight. This cousin of mine is somewhat related to me and my brother. During the years when the Gu family couldn't find me, my aunt sent her to the Gu family as a form of comfort to my mother. All these years, she has been taking my identity as the second daughter of the Gu family, so she can be considered my brother's sister. She's a few months younger than me and it's her birthday in 2 days. So he went home to see his sister. Ji Xiaoye was a little confused. That doesn't make sense. According to what you said, this sister is the same age as you. She's in her 30s. Is she not married? Is she still living at home? I'm only telling you her identity. I don't know the details. I think my brother should tell you personally. Anyway, she's definitely not a good person. She doesn't have a normal sibling relationship with my brother either. When she heard the last sentence, Ji Xiaoye's face turned pale. You mean? But don't misunderstand. My brother doesn't have any personal feelings for her. Moreover, after so many years of sibling relationship, it's probably been exhausted by her insanity. The only reason he was so obedient to her was because of some secret information that no one knew about. It wasn't even a secret, but a promise to another person. Gu Xinian had disappeared for 5 years. He couldn't have disappeared for no reason. Even the 2 elders of the Gu family knew that he was thinking about a girl far away in China. Actually, she shouldn't be the one to tell Ji Xiaoye these things, so she could only remind her a little so that she could be more prepared. He didn't know if it was because his words made Ji Xiaoye think of something, but later on, he saw that she looked like her soul had left her body. She didn't say more than a few words and hurriedly left. Naneo looked up from his tablet and looked at his mother. Mommy, is it really okay for you to tell godmother these things behind uncle's back? Yi Huanyan frowned and sighed. I know it's not very good, but before I met your uncle, Xiao Yu was my best friend. Therefore, she couldn't take a stand on this matter. She could only act as a catalyst to promote their relationship, hoping that the bad things would end quickly and the good things would come quickly. However, she knew that bad things would definitely come, but she didn't know if good things would come after the bad things. Chapter 379. After Ji Xiaoye left, Yi Huanyan called Gu Xinian and told him what she had said. On the other end of the line, Gu Xinian sounded a little tired. "I'll go back after Duo's birthday. I'll explain everything to Xiaoyu then." "Brother, I've always wanted to ask you, what exactly did Duo have on you? Why is it that you clearly want to send her back to Auntie's side, but you still listen to everything she asks you to do?" There was a short silence on the other end of the line. After a while, Gu Xinian's hoarse voice sounded. "I don't have anything on her. Don't think too much about it. After all, she's been with Mom and Dad for so many years. I only see her as a little sister. But I'm afraid she doesn't just see you as a brother, right? What kind of sister would fill her room with photos of her brother? What kind of sister would stay at home until she was in her 30s and not get married? What kind of sister would constantly monitor her brother's movements and chase after her own brother like a madwoman?" The discussion on the phone ended without any results. Yi Huanyan wanted to help Ji Xiaoye by finding out what was going on between Gu Xinian and Gu Duo. However, Gu Xinian knew what she was thinking and kept his mouth shut. In the Four Seasons villa on the other side of the ocean, the night was dark. After hanging up the call with Yi Huanyan, Gu Xinian went into the bathroom to take a shower. A figure in a sexy bathrobe tiptoed into the room. She quietly lifted the corner of the blanket and slid in. After Ji Xiaoye returned from Yi Huanyan's place, her heart was in suspense. She held her phone for a long time before she finally made the call. Gu Xinian had told her not to contact him for the next few days, but he didn't tell her the reason. She didn't understand what kind of secret place the Gu family was. Why couldn't she even call him? After a series of beeps, the call was connected. A sweet female voice sounded from the other end of the line, but there was a hint of vigilance in her tone. "Hello? Who are you?" Behind the sweet female voice, there was the sound of splashing water. Ji Xiaoye held her breath and subconsciously glanced at the phone screen. After confirming that it was Gu Xinian's name, her eyebrows twitched violently, and she decisively hung up the phone. She tightened her grip on her phone and her eyes dimmed. Was this the reason why he didn't want her to contact him? When Gu Xinian came out of the shower, he casually lifted the quilt and was about to get on the bed. From the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the bulge in the quilt. His face immediately sank. "Come out." As soon as he finished speaking, the bulging part of the blanket trembled. "I don't want to repeat myself." A slender hand stretched out from under the blanket and pulled open the blanket, revealing a sweet face. Even though she was already 30 years old, she still looked as pure as a young girl because she had taken good care of herself. She was 70% similar to Yi Qinghuan 5 years ago. "Brother, I'm just joking with you," Gu Duo giggled, her bathrobe slipping off her shoulders, revealing the lace suspender dress underneath. "Really? It's not funny." Gu Xinian glanced at her chest and immediately turned his back, saying coldly, "Put on your clothes and go back to your own yard." Gu Duo pursed her lips. "That's not my yard. It's Sister Yan Yan's." "Really? If you don't like to live there, then pack up and go back to your own home early." "I won't." Gu Duo got up from the bed and quickly climbed to the bedside. She grabbed Gu Xinian's bathrobe and gritted her teeth. "I said I won't go. You also promised me that as long as I want to, I can always live here." "Gu Duo, let go." Gu Xinian's voice sounded cold. Gu Duo's face darkened. "You promised me that you would take care of me for a lifetime. You promised. That was when we were young. You are my sister." "I'm not." Gu Duo screamed. "Turn around. You know I'm not your sister. I'm 32 years old. I've passed the best age to get married. I've waited for you for so many years. Why don't you even have the courage to look at me?" Gu Xinian's face was cold. He shook off her hand fiercely and stepped forward to distance himself from her. "If you continue to be so crazy, I'll ask my aunt to take you home tomorrow. Isn't it shameful enough? Do you think there aren't enough rumors out there? Gu Duo gritted her teeth and grabbed the pendant around her neck. It was made of transparent crystal and contained a gray-white powdery substance. Turn around and look at me. Otherwise, I'll drop your child. Gu Xinian turned around abruptly and stared at the glass bottle in her hand in disbelief. His eyes were red as he snatched it from her and roared, "Are you crazy?" Gu Duo laughed crazily on the bed. Her clothes were disheveled and she laughed crazily. "Go ahead and snatch it. I have more anyway. No one knows where the rest is except for me. I'm crazy. I must be crazy to hide his ashes in different places. I didn't hesitate to use such means to force you to stay by my side. Where is the rest?" Gu Xinian's face was livid as he clenched the bottle in his hand. Gu Duo's face was pale. "There's only one left. Together with the one in your hand, you have to promise to do 2 things for me." Gu Xinian's face darkened. "Say it." "I'm going to sleep on this bed tonight." Gu Duo looked straight at him. "With you." The filming of Remaining Life in Hujiang was coming to an end. After Yi Huanyan left the crew to the 2 assistant directors, she suddenly took 3 days off and sent her son to Ji Xiaoye's apartment in Hujiang. When she sent Naneo to Ji Xiaoye's apartment, she saw the alcohol bottles all over the floor and the half-dead Ji Xiaoye lying on the sofa. She covered her nose with a frown. "Why are you drinking again? My brother hasn't contacted you yet." Gu Xinian had been away for 2 weeks this time. Occasionally, he would call Yi Huanyan to ask about Ji Xiaoye. Something was obviously wrong, but Yi Huanyan couldn't ask too much. Ji Xiaoye half opened her eyes on the sofa, looking hungover. She rubbed her eyes and yawned as she looked at Yi Huanyan. "Last night, a few friends came to my place for a party, so I drank a little." "You didn't just drink a little." Yi Huanyan covered her nose and couldn't help waving her hand in front of her face, trying to get rid of the unpleasant smell of alcohol. "I originally planned to let Naneo stay with you for a few days, but looking at your condition, I think we should forget about it. I'll take him back to Lanjiang." "Why are you going back? Are you done with the movie?" Yi Huanyan's eyes dimmed a little. "Tomorrow is the anniversary of Grandma's death." Ji Xiaoye's nonchalant expression froze, and she stopped rubbing her eyes. After a moment, she said in a hoarse voice, "Leave Naneo here. I'll call Chen Yin and ask her to come over and keep him company." Chen Yin had arrived in Hujiang 3 days ago for a group competition at the Hujiang Stadium. She was considered semi-retired and was now a commentator. Ever since they met at the bar, Ji Xiaoye got along well with Yi Huanyan and her friends, especially Chen Yin. Now, she was almost like Ji Xiaoye's bodyguard. "Okay, then don't drink for the next 2 days." After giving her advice, Yi Huanyan rubbed her son's face. "Mommy is going to Lanjiang for 2 days, so you can play with Auntie Xiaowu and Mommy, okay?" Chapter 380. Now shrugged and climbed onto the sofa on all fours like a little adult. "I'm fine with anything. Let's play the game somewhere else." It was not far from Hujiang to Lanjiang. It only took a 5-hour drive to reach the western suburbs. At the cemetery in the western suburbs of Lanjiang City, Yi Huanyan walked into the cemetery dressed in black. Ling Han had not deliberately appeared by her side for more than a month. Apart from meeting him at various award ceremonies and banquets, it seemed that they had not seen each other alone for a long time. It was such an awkward thing to have her identity exposed. Before she came, she specially checked Ling Han's itinerary for that day. After confirming that he had come to the cemetery in the morning and had a meeting in the afternoon, she came to avoid bumping into him. Looking at the old lady's photo on the tombstone, Yong Hen's frozen appearance was exactly the same as in her mind. She frowned, slowly squatted down, and placed a bouquet of daisies in front of the old lady's grave. "Grandma, I'm back. I'm Yen Yen." At this point, she subconsciously touched her face. "You might not recognize me. I haven't come to see you all these years because of some special reasons. I think you'll understand me. Actually, thinking about what happened back then, I feel that it was quite ridiculous. At that time, I wanted to marry Ling Han and ran to you to beg you. You doted on me and pitied me, so you agreed. But from the beginning to the end, I never asked for his opinion. That's why things became so ugly later on. You were also put in a difficult position. Did you see Uncle Ling and my mother up there? I almost got to see them 5 years ago. The cold wind rustled, and autumn gradually covered the entire Lanjiang. A tall figure stood behind a big pine tree not far from Yi Huanyan. He hesitated for a long time but still did not go forward. He could not bear to break this scene. He could not bear to break the overlapping scene between her and 5 years ago. Yi Huanyan talked a lot in front of old Madame Ling's grave. If she had not been interrupted by a phone call, she would have probably talked until the sky turned dark. After answering the phone, a familiar voice sounded from the other end. Have you seen Gu Duo? Yi Huanyan frowned and glanced at the caller ID. It was Gu Xinian. But why would he ask her if she had seen Gu Duo? What's wrong? She asked with a frown. The voice on the other end of the phone sounded a little anxious. She left the villa last night. I checked her itinerary and she flew back to China. She seemed to have contacted Xiaoyu these 2 days. I'm afraid something happened to Xiaoyu. Not everyone can see Xiaoyu. What can Gu Duo do to her? Yen, you don't understand Gu Duo. Gu Xinian's voice sounded very serious. Then, do you know Xiaoyu? Yi Huanyan took a deep breath and her tone became serious. Brother, how long has it been since you contacted Xiaoyu? On the other end of the phone, Gu Xinian was silent for a few seconds. Yen, there are some things that I will explain to you when we meet. I don't need to listen to this explanation. You should explain to Xiaoyu as soon as possible. She has waited for you for 5 years. You really shouldn't let her wait any longer. I won't let her wait any longer. I plan to propose to her when I return to China this time. This time, Yi Huanyan was silent. As the sun set, Yi Huanyan was silent for a few seconds before she suddenly screamed, "Oh my God, are you serious?" The tall figure in the distance trembled behind this voice, and a stunned expression appeared on his face. After a while, that stunned expression gradually turned into a warm smile. She probably heard some good news, which was why she was smiling so happily. Actually, as she said, it was good to let her appear in front of him with her current identity. There was no need to force her to admit her past. No matter what, her position in his heart would not change. It would be the same for a few years. It didn't matter if she was Gu Huanyan or Yi Huanyan. After returning to Lanjiang City, Yi Huanyan made a trip to Haiyan Media on the way. When she was not around, Gu Qi managed the company very well. But when she returned, a pile of documents was handed to her for her to sign. This is the list of authors signed by the company, as well as a brief introduction of each of their books for promotion in the second half of the year. 5 of them will be chosen to be the focus of the promotion. I have chosen 5 of them. If there are no problems, you can sign it. If I didn't come back, would you have chosen these 5 people directly? Yes. Then why are you showing me these useless things? You can make the decision yourself anyway. Yi Huanyan was a bit speechless. Do you think I'm bored? Gu Qi shook his head. After all, you are the boss. If you don't do anything for a long time, you will easily lose confidence. Yi Huanyan laughed out loud. Who told you that? I can't wait to be bored. All right, don't look for me if you can make the decision yourself in the future. The rules and regulations are giving me a headache. If there's nothing else, you can go do your work. I will leave in a while. Gu Qi nodded and handed her the white envelope. There is one more thing that you can decide for yourself. The invitation letter with the pleasure group stamp was lying on Yi Huanyan's desk. It was the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the pleasure group. Seeing Yi Huanyan's hesitant expression, Gu Qi asked carefully, "If you don't want to go, I will ask my assistant to tell them that you are busy filming in Hujiang. I will prepare a gift and send it over." After a while, Yi Huanyan took a deep breath and said faintly, "No need, I happen to have time. Tell them that I will attend." Gu Qi stared blankly for a moment before a hint of disappointment flashed across his eyes. All right, I understand. When he left the office, he couldn't help but look back at Yi Huanyan. She was in a daze with one hand supporting her chin and the other tapping on the desk, as if she was playing a melody. She even hummed a few lines and seemed to be in a good mood. A week later, Remaining Life finished filming in Hujiang. It was the 50th anniversary of the Pleasure Group, and many of the actors and actresses had to ask for leave to attend the anniversary celebration. Yi Huanyan gave the crew 3 days off, and after the break, they had to move to France for filming. This time, the Pleasure Group invited a lot of people. First of all the signed artists of the company were present. Then, there were all the major media companies, as well as many entrepreneurs in Lonjiang City. The scene was even better than the annual celebration. Before attending the banquet, Ji Xiaoye looked very tired. She had originally planned to cancel the banquet, but Yi Huanyan had brought her the most beautiful evening gown on the show and forced her to put on makeup and wear it. Then, she went to the banquet with her. If you want to see Ling Han, you can come by yourself. Why do you have to drag me along? Sitting in the car, Ji Xiaoye complained impatiently. You will regret it if you don't go. Yi Huanyan thought to herself, but acted as if nothing had happened. Chapter 381. The banquet was booked in the biggest star hotel in Lonjiang City. It was so extravagant that it was comparable to a film festival. Yi Huanyan walked the red carpet with a reluctant man in her arms. The man complained all the way without showing any respect to her. When they were waiting to walk the red carpet, the reporter outside the yellow line asked her, "Chief Editor Ji, you come to the anniversary celebration of Pleasure Group on behalf of Fengshang. Is it because you have worked in Pleasure Group before?" "It's because I received the invitation." Ji Xiaoye glanced at the reporter lazily, seeming to be too lazy to say more. The reporter smiled embarrassedly. "Chief Editor Ji, what's your comment on the anniversary celebration of Pleasure Group this time? Do you have any blessings?" "Good job. The style of the red carpet is so low-end that it can be seen everywhere. It's so bad. Sorry, we are going to enter the venue." Yi Huanyan covered Ji Xiaoye's mouth and pulled her away from the reporter. She reminded her in a low voice while walking, "Do you want to be on the headlines tomorrow?" Ji Xiaoye, the chief editor of the famous fashion magazine, is nitpicking at the anniversary celebration of Pleasure Group. "Do you want to inherit the title of the sharp-tongued queen from Su Mang? No, it's very likely that you will become Miju Shetai." Ji Xiaoye was a little embarrassed by her words. A trace of apology flashed in her eyes. She took a deep breath and murmured, "Sorry, I'm not in a good mood today. So, if there are reporters coming to interview me or anyone wants to approach me to talk to me, you can help me to block them tonight." After signing their names on the giant screen of the anniversary celebration, the two entered the hotel side by side. Seeing Ji Xiaoye's unhappy look, Yi Huanyan was a little confused. What happened on earth? Ji Xiaoye frowned. "I called your brother. It should be at night over there. I heard the sound of the shower." A woman answered the phone. Yi Huanyan's face turned pale. "When?" "Half a month ago, on the day you told me about the younger sister of your Gu family." "What happened after that?" Yi Huanyan quickly asked. "Did my brother call you back after that? Did you call him again to ask?" Ji Xiaoye shook her head. No wonder. No wonder after that day, she would get drunk and pass out every now and then. She was photographed by reporters several times at drinking parties with her friends and had to be helped home. There were also several times when she was photographed with a young male actor. Rumors about her were flying everywhere, saying that she was an old cow eating young grass. After taking a glass of champagne from the waiter, Yi Huanyan pulled Ji Xiaoye to sit on the sofa in an inconspicuous corner, so that they wouldn't have to socialize with all the business people. "So you've been acting like you've lost your soul because of this phone call? Do you think it's not important?" Ji Xiaoye looked at her in surprise. At night, he was taking a shower. A woman in the room answered the call. "Don't you think it's important? Have I ever told you that I have a maid in my house?" And she's a maid who speaks authentic Mandarin? What? Ji Xiaoye's face stiffened. In the building where my brother lives, there are at least 4 Filipino maids who speak very authentic Mandarin. The one who answered your call is most likely one of the Filipino maids. Do you need me to call and ask for you? Maid. Ji Xiaoye widened her eyes in disbelief. Why didn't you say so earlier? You didn't tell me earlier, big sister. Oh no. I've wronged your brother. Ji Xiaoye instantly looked like she was about to cry. She put on an apologetic expression. I've been cursing his ancestors for the past 2 days. They're also my ancestors. Yi Huanyan kindly reminded her. No. I need to drink to calm myself down. With that said, she snatched the glass from Yi Huanyan's hand and downed it in one gulp. Seeing that she was in a good mood, Yi Huanyan helplessly shrugged. Then why don't you eat something and drink less? I'm going to meet the company's business partner. Is that okay? Go ahead. Ji Xiaoye waved her hand, looking like she didn't care. Yi Huanyan lifted the corner of her skirt and shook her head with a smile. She combed her long hair with one hand and then walked in the direction of the VIP lounge. After walking a little further, she dialed the phone and lowered her voice. Where are you? A deep voice came from the other end of the phone. Peony Hall. After hearing this, Yi Huanyan hung up the phone and hurriedly walked into the private room on the right. As soon as she entered the Peony Hall, she saw that the entire hall was filled with balloons with strings and white petals scattered on the red carpet. She didn't have time to sigh. She hurriedly lifted her skirt and found Gu Xinian among the group of assistants. Brother, let me ask you something. Gu Xinian was wearing a white suit. Standing in the crowd, his height of nearly 1.9 meters was particularly eye-catching. When he saw Yi Huanyan's serious expression, he hurriedly restrained his expression and walked out of the group of assistants who were arranging the scene. What's wrong? Yi Huanyan pulled Gu Xinian aside. Let me ask you. What happened between the two of you before Gu Duo ran away from home? Why do you ask? Gu Xinian frowned. Half a month ago, on the night I called you, did Gu Duo go to your room? Yi Huanyan directly pinpointed the person who answered Ji Xiaoye's call at that time to Gu Duo. She had just explained to Ji Xiaoye to reassure her. The maid of the Gu family wouldn't answer the master's call. Moreover, among the maid of the Gu family, the one who lived with Gu Xinian in Shiyuan could only speak English. In the Gu family, other than her mother, Wan Yi, the only woman who dared to answer Gu Xinian's call in the middle of the night was Gu Duo. She was the so-called sister who had something on Gu Xinian that made him so cautious. Gu Xinian was preparing to propose today. Everything here was prepared for Ji Xiaoye. Yi Huanyan originally wanted to cooperate with him to lure Ji Xiaoye here and give her a surprise. However, as Ji Xiaoye's best friend, she first had to figure out what secrets her brother had with another woman. Gu Xinian's expression darkened. After a while, he spat out a word. Yes. You. Nothing happened between us. Yi Huanyan looked up at Gu Xinian and took a deep breath. Gu Duo spent the night in your room, but nothing happened between the two of you. I believe this, but Xiao you may not believe. I think you've already found a way to cover it up, haven't you? Gu Xinian frowned. There was a trace of uncertainty in his tone. It's best not to tell her about this. Don't let her think too much. I'm loyal to her. Yi Huanyan could only sigh and say helplessly, fortunately, I'm smart. After saying this, she suddenly thought of Gu Duo's disappearance. She grabbed Gu Xinian's arm and asked, By the way, where is Gu Duo now? Have you found her? At the mention of this, Gu Xinian frowned again. She's in Lon River. Chapter 382. What's she doing in Lonjiang? Looking for you? Gu Xinian furrowed his brows. She came with her family. She's home? Yi Huanyan was stunned. How could she be willing to? Gu Xinian had a complicated look in his eyes. Before Yi Huanyan could ask Gu Duo the purpose of her visit, a figure darted through the entrance of Peony Hall. It was Gu Qi. He hurried over to Yi Huanyan. "Second Miss G is looking for you outside. It looks like she's coming here. We haven't finished decorating yet, right? I'll go out and delay her. You guys hurry." Yi Huanyan hurriedly lifted the corner of her dress and walked towards the door. When she exited Peony Hall, she happened to see Ji Xiaoye walking over. As she walked, she pointed in confusion behind Yi Huanyan. "What are you doing in here? What's so fun about it?" Yi Huanyan held her hand and forcibly pulled her in the direction of the hall. "Nothing much. I was looking for the restroom. I've been looking for it for a long time. It just so happens that I need to use the restroom too." As she spoke, Ji Xiaoye tried to break free from her hand and walk towards Peony Hall. "Hey, don't go. There's a queue for the restroom over there. Let's go there." Yi Huanyan hurriedly pulled her and spun her around before dragging her towards the hall. Ji Xiaoye was a big-hearted person. She didn't sense anything wrong and let her drag her along. There was always a long queue in front of the ladies' restroom, but the men's restroom was always empty. It seemed to be an iron law that couldn't be broken, even at such a grand anniversary celebration. After sending Ji Xiaoye into the restroom, Yi Huanyan sat on the sofa near the restroom. On one hand, she was waiting for her to come out. On the other hand, she was waiting for Gu Qi to give her a signal so that she could prepare to lead Ji Xiaoye out. The banquet had started a long time ago. When Ling Han walked in front of her with a glass of champagne, she was eating a small piece of cake with her head lowered. She had been busy with her makeup and hair since noon, so she didn't have time to eat. So now that she finally had time to eat something, she cherished it very much. She thought that Ling Han, as the CEO of Pleasure, would be so busy that his feet wouldn't touch the ground. But when she saw his relaxed expression, Yi Huanyan couldn't help but look surprised. "You're waiting for someone?" Ling Han asked. "I'm not waiting for you." After Yi Huanyan said this, she felt like she had exposed herself. She clearly wasn't waiting for him. There was a ladies' restroom nearby, so she didn't need to explain to know that he was waiting for his female companion. With this explanation, she felt like she was making things worse. Thus, her expression immediately changed. She turned her head unnaturally and avoided his gaze. Ling Han didn't seem to notice. He sat down on the sofa next to her. His long legs were squeezed between the coffee table and the sofa, and he looked like he had nowhere to sit. He didn't say anything, but Yi Huanyan couldn't sit still. She asked hesitantly, "Pleasure is celebrating its anniversary. As the CEO, don't you need to entertain the guests?" Ling Han raised his head and looked at her. "There are plenty of people in the company to entertain the guests. Besides, these people aren't just here for Pleasure's anniversary celebration. The business cocktail party is just a large-scale corporate networking event held for seemingly legitimate reasons. Of course, the organizer had to get to know all the guests and wasn't in such a hurry to interact with them. For example, Ling Han. The phone flashed with a signal that it was ready. Yi Huanyan glanced at it and put the phone back into her handbag. "Is Gu Xinian ready?" Ling Han glanced at her hand from the corner of his eye. His expression was indifferent. Yi Huanyan was stunned for a moment, but she wasn't very surprised. They were borrowing the venue of the hotel where he was holding the anniversary celebration. Gu Xinian naturally had to inform him beforehand. There was quite a commotion in the Peony Hall, so it was normal for a meticulous person like him to know what was going on inside. "Yes." She nodded and zipped up her handbag as if nothing had happened. "I think I should go. You're not waiting for Chief Editor Ji?" Ling Han's tone today was formal and distant. He didn't deliberately test her feelings, which made her feel at a loss. "Sit for a while. It just so happens that I have something to apologize to you about." Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. "What?" "Previously, I mistook you for my wife. It was my mistake. I'm sorry." Yi Huanyan's eyes revealed a somewhat stunned expression. She looked into Ling Han's eyes, trying to figure out something from them. Was he retreating in order to advance? But he really did look apologetic and magnanimous. When he looked at her, He looked a little annoyed, but his expression and actions were very natural. But I think that since President Gu is running the company so well, you shouldn't mind too much. Another day, I'll treat President Gu to a meal alone as an apology for what happened before. What do you think? Yi Huanyan resentfully raised her wine glass and reluctantly clinked it with his. After taking a sip, she hesitantly asked, I'm very curious. I wonder, why did President Ling suddenly change your mind? It's not really sudden. It's just that she's back. Who's back? Yi Huanyan deliberately put on a nonchalant expression. My wife. What? Yi Huanyan's face paled. At that moment, she thought that she had heard wrongly. Until Ling Han slowly stood up and looked in the direction of the first floor, she followed his gaze and suddenly saw a familiar figure. Wearing a pink dress and holding a champagne glass, the corners of her eyes and the tips of her eyebrows were smiling, but if one looked closely, there was always a hint of gloominess in this smile. The noble temperament that she had cultivated since young made her look natural and unrestrained. If it wasn't Gu Duo, who else could it be? You're saying that she is your wife? Although I'm not sure, it should be her. So I apologize for what happened before. President Gu, I hope that we can still meet and get along as normal as before. Yi Huanyan was so angry that she was trembling. Are you crazy? How could she be your wife? With that said, she lifted her dress and walked in the direction of the stairs, leaving Ling Han behind. From the moment Gu Xinian said that Gu Duo had appeared in Lonjiang City, Yi Huanyan had a faint feeling of uneasiness. That feeling of uneasiness was released the moment she saw Gu Duo. In the past, Gu Duo was 70% similar to Yi Huanyan because of her different style of dressing and makeup. But now, the light makeup on her face and the style of her shoulder-length hair was 90% similar to Yi Huanyan. When she saw Yi Huanyan, she could still raise her glass to her as if nothing had happened. She smiled sweetly and said, Long time no see, my older sister. Yi Huanyan glanced at her in annoyance and directly pulled her into an empty private room. After shaking off her hand, she said coldly, Don't try to get close to me. I have something to ask you. Gu Duo lowered her head and looked at her nails, looking indifferent. If it's about your ex-husband, I don't think there's anything to talk about. Chapter 383. Yi Huanyan's face turned green as she said rudely, Firstly, he is not my ex-husband. We are not divorced yet. Secondly, why did you use my identity to get close to him? You'd better tell me the truth. Otherwise, I have ways to make sure you won't be able to stay in Lon River for another day. Her domineering aura made Gu Duo's face turn pale, but she quickly calmed down. Yi Huanyan is the one who didn't divorce him. Didn't you refuse to admit it? I've never used your identity. You, on the other hand, have been using my identity for the past 5 years. The identity that should have belonged to me, the one and only second daughter of the Gu family. Seeing how stubborn she was, Yi Huanyan could not be bothered to talk nonsense with her. I'm going to tell Ling Han who I am now, and who you are. Not only that, I'll also tell my brother and parents everything you've done. You can tell them when you're in front of them. She had just taken 2 steps when a faint voice came from behind her. Go ahead and leave. If you want to see my brother and that shameless woman ruin the marriage proposal, then go ahead and say it. What are you? Yi Huanyan turned around. Her furious eyes instantly darkened when she saw the photo on Gu Duo's phone. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Don't think that 2 photoshopped photos will have any effect on this marriage proposal. You're too naive, Gu Duo. Am I the naive one, or are you lying to yourself? Gu Duo walked closer step by step, her expression dark. I think your best friend must have told you that one night half a month ago, she shamelessly called my brother. I was the one who answered the phone. Why was I the one who answered the phone? She suddenly laughed. My dear sister, why don't you think about it? It was the middle of the night. Why was I in my brother's room, and why was I the one who answered the phone call? Lunatic, Yi Huanyan spat out disdainfully. You're really a lunatic. Gu Duo's eyes gradually turned deranged. Do you think that you're a saint just because you haven't seen Ling Han for 5 years and had more than 100 plastic surgeries? Do you think you're a saint just because you haven't seen him in 5 years? Why did I wait for Gu Sinian for so many years, but in the end, I didn't get anything in the end? Even my right to be his sister was taken away by someone like you? Who do you think you are? Yi Huanyan, Gu Duo, and looked as though she was about to pull the door open. Gu Duo stopped her hand. As long as you dare to step out of here, this photo will appear on the electronic screen during the marriage proposal. Not just the marriage proposal, but also their engagement and even to marriage too. What on earth do you want? Yi Huanyan was livid. These things are already set in stone. My brother will definitely be with Xiaoyu in the end. Even if they don't end up together, it won't be your turn. Gu Duo sneered. What do I want? Ever since I was born, you've been a knife hanging over my head. I knew that you would come back one day, and everyone's love for me would disappear the moment you came back. You snatched it away. Now, it's really like that. So even if you snatch something from me, I have to take something back in order to balance it out, right? What do you want? Ling Han. Just as Yi Huanyan had said, she was destined to not be able to get Gu Sinian, but she had to open a bloody wound in the hearts of the Gu family. Even if this wound would heal one day, it would definitely leave a shocking scar. What she wanted was for the Gu family to remember her when they saw that scar. Since she couldn't get him, then she would do her best to make them remember her by hook or by crook. Yi Huanyan's expression instantly became angry. She glared at her fiercely and spat out 2 words. In your dreams. So stubborn. Gu Duo sneered and let go of her hand. Then you can leave. I can guarantee that as long as you step out of this door, I'll do as I say. Yi Huanyan felt as though her legs were filled with lead and she couldn't move. Her fingers trembled slightly as she held the door handle. After a while, she put down her hand and slowly turned to look at Gu Duo. You want to be with Ling Han just to take revenge on me? What's in it for you? Gu Duo's sharp eyes turned at this moment, revealing a cold light. It's better to say that it makes your family uncomfortable. Remember this disgusting thing for the rest of your life, just like how your appearance will make me feel disgusted for the rest of my life. What makes you so sure that Ling Han will believe that you're me? I don't intend to let him believe that I'm you, but between you and me, if you don't take the initiative to confess your identity, who do you think is more like the woman who originally deserved to die? Ridiculous. Yi Huanyan couldn't laugh out loud. After a while, she found her voice. It was very difficult. At this moment, she regretted not telling Ling Han her identity earlier, so she had no choice but to be threatened by Gu Duo. Gu Sinian had done a lot for her, and so had Xiaoyu. She couldn't let these people down. Okay, I promise you. But I want to know, what do you have on my brother that made him obey your orders all these years? The word obey was a little too serious, but this was the emotion that Yi Huanyan was most dissatisfied with. Her brother, whom she respected very much, even if he gave in to anyone a little bit, this made her feel dissatisfied, let alone a woman like Gu Duo. Gu Duo sneered, and her eyes were very complicated. Didn't he tell you this kind of old story? You're his dearest sister. Yi Huanyan frowned. She knew that the matter was definitely not simple. She didn't know how Gu Duo got close to Ling Han, but she knew that this woman must be crazy. The most important thing now was Ji Xiaoye's safety. Whether it was physically or mentally, many explanations were actually the same, but it was very different from who said it. In the peony hall, Ji Xiaoye only saw Ling Han standing at the stairs on the 2nd floor when she came out of the bathroom. She slightly paused and subconsciously looked around. She didn't see Yi Huanyan, so she frowned. She originally wanted to directly pass by Ling Han and go down from the stairs on the other side, but after just 2 steps, she saw Ling Han turn around and saw her. It would be impolite if she didn't greet him, so she could only laugh dryly. President Ling, why aren't you receiving the guests downstairs? Ling Han's eyes had a hint of a smile. These 2 best friends spoke in the same tone. There was nothing else to say, right? If you're looking for Yen Yen, I just saw her enter the peony hall. Hearing this, Ji Xiaoye felt as if she had been pardoned and quickly thanked him. Then I'll leave first. Seeing Ji Xiaoye running away, Ling Han took a deep breath and followed her. Ji Xiaoye avoided Ling Han completely because of Yi Huanyan. In the past few years, in fact, Fengshang and Pleasure had been on good terms, mainly because of Su Mang. After she succeeded Fengshang, it was not good to not respect Pleasure. But as soon as Yi Huanyan came back, the situation was different. Chapter 384. The hall was packed with people. Pleasure wasn't just for fun. The entire floor of the hotel had been booked, and there was an endless stream of guests coming and going. Ji Xiaoye had drunk some wine, so her steps were still weak when she went downstairs. She lifted the corner of her dress and walked to the entrance of the peony hall. She raised her hand to push open the door, but all she saw was darkness inside. She frowned and staggered 2 steps into the hall. She shouted in a hoarse voice, "Yen Yen." With a whoosh, the distant spotlights shone on the end of the red carpet. A gorgeous pure white wedding dress was hanging on a hanger. Long beaded tassels swayed on the dress, and the gauze wrapped around her shoulders. A bright sapphire was inlaid in front of her chest, and the design of the hollow lace was gorgeous and complicated. She was stunned, thinking that she had walked into the wrong venue and mistakenly entered a romantic surprise that was meticulously planned by some romantic person. She hurriedly wanted to withdraw. However, the second beam of light suddenly shot down and landed on the eyes of a person beside the wedding dress. She had never seen him in a white suit. In her impression, Gu Xinian was always cold, devilish, and even cold. He always wore a lifeless black suit and walked around the major business cocktail parties and financial newspapers, telling others about his views on international finance. She had seen his serious look, she had seen his unruly look, she had seen his gentle look, and she had seen his helpless look. No matter what he was like, with just a few words, he could make her throw herself into his arms without any hesitation, regardless of anything else. But at this moment, he was solemn and serious. That serious look made her wonder what such a beautiful wedding dress was for. Before she could think further, his voice rang out in the hall. Creating romantic surprises is probably something that teenagers in their early 20s are used to doing. You used to tell me that the more romantic something is, the more tacky it is. Back then, I thought that when you said that, you were hinting that you didn't like such things. Ji Xiaoye stood rooted to the ground in a daze. She was more than half sober now. After being apart for so many years, I've thought about it for a long time. Back then, you just wanted to tell me how to create a romantic scene. Just pick the most tacky one, as tacky as possible, right? The third spotlight shone on Ji Xiaoye. As she moved on the red carpet, her footsteps became more and more hurried. When she reached Gu Xinian, she was almost running. At this time, the noise had attracted many people in the hall, who were standing at the door to watch. Ji Xiaoye stood in front of Gu Xinian, panting. She took a deep breath to adjust her breathing. Her voice was trembling, and she tried many times before she finally asked, "What are you doing?" She didn't dare to be happy too early. Just like 5 years ago, he promised to bring her home to meet his parents, but in the end, he left her alone in the country. She waited for 5 years without any news. Gu Xinian took out a blue suede box from his pocket. When she opened it, she saw a diamond that had not yet been inlaid. The diamond was picked out by my dad in South Africa. Once you agree, you can choose how to inlay it. My mom personally designed the wedding dress. They said that these 2 things represent their attitude, so you won't have any problems with your family. Ji Xiaoye fell silent. She pursed her lips, and after a while, she said in a choked voice, "You haven't told me what you want me to agree to." Gu Xinian smiled and got down on one knee. His voice was deep and seductive. "Marry me." At the end of the red carpet were the guests who were watching the commotion outside. Some people started to make a fuss, but Gu Xinian glanced at them. He raised his hand, indicating that they should keep quiet. Instantly, there was complete silence. "Don't worry about other people's opinions. I just want to know what you think. Are you willing to marry me? Don't you mind that I'm a married, middle-aged man who is much older than you? Why would she mind? 5 years ago, she felt that she was not good enough for him. She worked hard and finally got to where she was today. She could barely stand shoulder to shoulder with him, but she realized that there was something in this world that could not be made up for. It was called time. 5 years was too long. She was already a 32-year-old middle-aged woman. Although she took good care of herself, after removing her makeup, it was obvious that she had been through the vicissitudes of life. Young girls in their teens and 20s were growing like bamboo shoots after the rain. With Gu Xinyan's qualifications, he could totally choose from them. 5 years later, when they met again, perhaps it was to relive the old dream, or perhaps it was to draw a perfect ending to the old dream, or perhaps it was not a perfect ending. When she accepted the fact that Gu Xinyan was back, she had already thought it through clearly. Even if there was no result, she had accepted her fate. She just had to seize every moment. But now, this ending seemed to have become a joke. The next sentence was, "Are you willing to marry me?" The pen to continue the future fell into her hands. "I'm willing." The 3 beams of light merged into one, illuminating the perfect couple and the set of beautiful wedding photos on the stage. Outside the door, there was a wave of applause that rose and fell one after another. The lights in the entire venue were brightly lit. At this moment, Ji Xiaoye saw how gorgeous the entire venue was. Pink, blue, and white balloons were all over the venue. The place she had just walked was a red carpet covered with petals. The long table covered with a white tablecloth was filled with all kinds of Western snacks. The decoration like a wedding hall made her reveal a stunned expression. She had not noticed at all when she had just run over, and there was an intimate photo of the 2 of them on the big screen. It was framed in pink and surrounded by tricolored balloons to form a heart shape. It was so vulgar, but it was romantic to her heart. And Gu Xinyan's next sentence made her even more shocked. "Since you've agreed, today will be our engagement party. What do you think?" Ji Xiaoye pursed her lips. Her face was flushed red, and she was about to cry. "You've already arranged it. Can I say no?" When Yi Huanyan arrived, she only saw Ji Xiaoye with tears in her eyes. She was holding the suede box with the naked diamonds in her hand and crying non-stop. She subconsciously turned around to look at Gu Duo. Gu Duo was standing behind the crowd with a sullen face. After noticing Yi Huanyan looking at her, she quickly averted her gaze and finally landed on Yi Huanyan's face. In the air, their eyes met. There was a warning and a threat. Ling Han was also standing in the crowd and seemed to be deliberately walking towards her. Yi Huanyan hesitated for a few seconds. In the end, she picked up the corner of her dress and walked in the opposite direction. It did not matter when she confessed, but not today. At the very least, she had to ensure that Gu Xinyan and Ji Xiaoye had a perfect and sweet night. After tonight, she would definitely find a solution. After sending a text message to Gu Xinyan, Yi Huanyan hurriedly left the venue. She picked up the corner of her dress and got into Gu Qi's car outside the hotel. She simply said, "Let's go back to the company." Chapter 385. Ling Han chased her to the entrance of the hotel, only to see Yi Huanyan's car drive away. He frowned and took out his phone, but a faint voice came from behind him. "If you can't hold it in, I'm afraid you won't be able to get her back." "Why did she leave? What did you say to her?" "I told her that you are with me now." Ling Han's face darkened. "You just promised to do me a favor to dispel her doubts. Who gave you the right to do that?" He thought that there were enough misunderstandings between him and Yi Huanyan, and he didn't need any outsiders to add fuel to the fire. Gu Duo came to him herself, saying that she could help him. Maybe she didn't know, but at the birthday party in Florida, he had seen clearly that this woman was a person who was used to making trouble behind people's backs. She was not a good person. The so-called sisterly love was probably something that she had fabricated herself. He didn't care about Gu Duo's purpose of approaching him, but he didn't feel at ease leaving such a person by Yi Huanyan's side, so he played along and comforted Yi Huanyan, who was scared by him last time. This was his purpose tonight. He acted naturally in this play, pointing at Gu Duo and saying that she was his wife, just to see Yi Huanyan's reaction. If she really cared about him, she was bound to confront Gu Duo and ask her why she approached him. He did see her go aggressively. But what happened next was different from what he expected. She didn't come to explain anything to him, and she didn't even make any excuses when she left. Was there a misunderstanding again? It was such a clumsy play, and no one knew Gu Duo's identity better than he did. Could it be misunderstood? He repeatedly dialed Yi Huanyan's cell phone number. She won't answer, Gu Duo reminded him. Sure enough, it was hung up after a few seconds. He called again, but the call was busy. Obviously, he was blacklisted. Mr. Ling, I think you should sit down and have a good talk with me. Ling Han's eyes were like torches as he said coldly, before this, if she misunderstands us, I think you won't mind coming with me to explain. It's my pleasure. Gu Duo shrugged, looking indifferent. After getting in the car, Gu Duo looked at Ling Han, who was sitting in the passenger seat, with a meaningful smile in her eyes. My sister doesn't listen to reason or force. I advise you not to explain it to her in a hurry. In fact, it's good to let her misunderstand. After she calms down, maybe she will come to you and confess. I don't want to have any misunderstandings with her. Do you dare to say that this misunderstanding was not caused by your acquiescence? Don't tell me you're going to say that the fact that my sister was separated from you for the past 5 years was also a big misunderstanding. Then the heavens really didn't care enough for the two of you. Have you ever thought that my sister came back this time not to look for you at all? And my sister's child. Have you ever thought about who the child is? Enough. A cold reprimand came from the passenger seat. Ling Han was really angry, and his mind was in a mess. In the apartment on the top floor of Haiyan Media, the doorbell rang urgently. Yi Huanyan frowned and glanced at the monitor. After seeing Ling Han, she asked through the door, "It's so late. Why are you looking for me? I have something to explain to you." There was no one else on the monitor. Yi Huanyan hesitated for a few seconds, opened the door, and leaned against it. Then say it. I also have something to tell you. There's nothing between Gu Duo and me. I have to explain this to you clearly. Ling Han stood at the door, panting slightly. Probably because he ran over, his breathing was a little unstable. Seeing him so anxious, Yi Huanyan's heart softened. She wanted to tell him everything. However, she saw a figure walking faintly from the end of the corridor. It was like a lingering ghost. It wasn't an illusion. It was really her. When the words came to her mouth, she changed her tone. What's there to explain? Didn't you say that she's your wife? I'm just not sure yet, but she looks like your wife and feels like her. Ling Han's eyes froze. I was just. You were just testing me? Then what did you find out? You found out that I'm Yi Huanyan? Her face was livid. She kept looking at the figure at the end of the corridor from the corner of her eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, That's right. As you wish, I'm Yi Huanyan. But so what? Ling Han's eyes lit up. He immediately grabbed her hand. Yen, you admit it. You're willing to admit it. So what if I admit it? So what if I don't admit it? Yi Huanyan's face was cold. I'll go back to America after this film. It has nothing to do with you. You didn't come back to look for me? What a joke. She looked indifferent. Why would I come back to look for you? Who do you think you are? Ling Han's face was pale. He seemed to be grasping at his last life-saving straw. Naneo's birthday. According to the date of birth, she clearly conceived the child when she was with me. How do you explain that? Yi Huanyan pinched her palm. Her voice turned cold. Who said that the child was yours? Who told you that the date and year were correct? I aborted your child a long time ago. Her heart ached when she talked about the child. The pain of losing that child still lingered in her heart. That was the most important thing that made her unable to forgive Ling Han. No matter how much she loved him. The world seemed to be silent. After a while, only a trembling voice could be heard in the corridor. I don't believe it. Yi Huanyan took a deep breath. Wait here. She turned around and went into the room. She dug out a crumpled abortion certificate from her suitcase and handed it to him. The certificate was from 5 years ago, not long after her car accident. When she was first sent to the operating room for emergency treatment, the doctor asked the family if they wanted to give up on this child who was very likely to become deformed. There was a signature on it. It was Gu Xinyan's name. Do you believe it? She asked. Ling Han's body swayed. He barely managed to stabilize himself by holding onto the wall. He stared blankly at the abortion certificate in his hand. The blood drained from his face. How could you? Why can't I? Yi Huanyan's eyes were filled with complex emotions. She glanced at the figure in the corner and steeled her heart. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. The child is not yours. I didn't come back to look for you. Ling Han, it's important to know one's own limits. I don't believe it. He muttered to himself. At this moment, his pair of clear eyes seemed to have lost their focus and become empty. There was a flurry of footsteps in the corridor. Gu Qi looked at the situation in front of him in astonishment. President Gu, call security and chase him away. Yi Huanyan threw these words and walked into the room without looking back. Chapter 386. In front of the floor-to-ceiling window, there was a neon-lit road not far from Haiyan Media Corporation. She saw a figure being carried out by the security guards. She tried to rush in, but was pushed down in the end. She staggered and fell on the ground. She didn't stand up for a long time. You feel bad for her? A faint voice sounded behind her, full of pride. Yi Huanyan turned around angrily and shouted at Gu Duo, Are you satisfied? Gu Duo raised her eyebrows. More or less. I'm quite satisfied. You did this willingly. Give it to me. Gu Duo had promised before. If this play was to her satisfaction, she would return the information she had on Gu Xinyan to her. You want it so urgently? Gu Duo sneered. She lowered her head, untied the chain around her neck, and waved it in front of Yi Huanyan. Here, it's for you. The pinky-sized glass bottle contained a grayish-white powdery substance. Originally, it was hung on the neck with a fine silver chain. Yi Huanyan couldn't see what it was. Now that it was untied, Yi Huanyan held it in her hand. She looked at the bottle carefully and found an Arabic number 9 engraved on the cork. What the hell is this? She held the bottle tightly and looked at Gu Duo coldly. It seems that my brother really didn't tell you anything about what happened that year. Do you know Young Ku? Young Ku, Gu Xinyan's ex-wife. Of course, Yi Huanyan knew. She had heard Gu Xinyan tell the story of him and Young Ku. However, the two parted on bad terms. Young Ku passed away not long after they divorced. I told you before that the person I hate most is you. That's not right. Before you, there was a woman who was even more annoying than you. That was Su Ku. If she was still alive, you two would have been very good sisters. Because you both make me feel disgusted. Yi Huanyan never thought that she knew the truth from Gu Duo. Even though there was a strong sense of individualism in the story, she could still tell that the story was much more realistic than what Gu Xinyan had said. Because it was much more brutal than what Gu Xinyan had said, and because he was the person involved, there was no way he could describe such a brutal incident in a completely appropriate manner, so he had hidden some facts. For example, after the divorce with Su Ku, she actually gave birth to the child and raised it alone. Another example was that the child died not long after being born because of congenital defects. The truth came out one by one from Gu Duo's mouth. About 10 years ago, Gu Xinyan met a girl from a remote village in the United States, Su Ku, because the group was building a resort. Not long after they met, he brought her home to meet his parents and relatives and said that he wanted to marry her. Most of the elders in the Gu family didn't care about the marriage of their children. Gu Xinyan had always been a decisive person, so no one came out to oppose, and the marriage was prepared logically. Suku's hometown was very far from the Four Seasons villa, so during the wedding preparations, she directly lived in a hotel near the villa. At that time, Gu Duo, who was still the second daughter of the Gu family, often visited her, and the two became friends. I didn't want to be friends with her at all. It's just that brother and mommy felt that she was too lonely in the hotel alone, so they asked me to accompany her often. She's the kind of person who doesn't like to be seen in public. She's the one who insisted on being friends with me. It's ridiculous that she thinks too much of herself. Gu Duo's tone was full of contempt for Suku. Yi Huanyan frowned, but didn't interrupt her. Suku only knew that Gu Duo was Gu Xinyan's sister, but she didn't know that he had a sister who had been separated for many years. The one in front of her was only his cousin, but this sister secretly loved her brother because they had been together since childhood. If she had known, maybe the tragedy later would not have happened. The wedding was held according to the customs of Suku's hometown. The bride's face was covered with a layer of gauze, and the face of the bride couldn't be seen clearly. Gu Xinian drank wine, sneaked into the wedding room, and kissed all the way through the gauze. The moment he removed the gauze, he was very sober. Do you know? At that time, I said that Suku didn't want to marry him and ran away. I sat in the room because I was afraid that the wedding guests would come and make the Gu family lose face when they saw that there was no one in the room. He really didn't chase after me, and sat by the bed for the whole night. When speaking of this, Gu Duo showed an extremely sarcastic smile, and her voice suddenly deepened a few degrees, sounding very gloomy. Do you know? In fact, Suku was in the next room, but no one knew. This was a bet between me and Suku. Yi Huanyan's heart clenched. Even though these were all things that had already happened, even though this was just Gu Duo's statement of the past with a gloomy individualism, she still couldn't help but feel sad for this unfortunate couple from 10 years ago. Before he proposed to marry Suku, Gu Xinian didn't reveal too much of his feelings to Suku. They got married because of a strange combination of circumstances, and he might have thought that there would be plenty of time to reveal his feelings after marriage. At that time, he wasn't sure whether Suku was interested in him, but Suku didn't refuse to marry him. Suku seemed to be a resigned person on the surface, but there was some inferiority and cowardice in her bones. However, the knot in such a person's heart was more difficult to untie. After knowing Suku for a long time, Gu Duo knew that there was a misunderstanding between her and Gu Xinian. Suku always thought that Gu Xinian married her only because of his responsibility, so she was very nervous before the wedding preparations. Before the wedding, Gu Xinian didn't go to see her again, which gave Gu Duo an opportunity to take advantage of. I told her frankly that I liked my brother. I told her that my brother married her only because of his responsibility, and also because it was a cover. My brother would still be with me in the future, and she was just a useless person raised by our Gu family. That's why there was a bet on the wedding. Yi Huanyan couldn't believe that such vicious words would be said by Gu Duo, who was only 22 years old 10 years ago. But at this moment, she looked crazy. Recalling her evil deeds, she seemed to be free and without any fear. Aren't you afraid that I'll tell my brother all this? Yi Huanyan's face turned cold. Of course you can tell him, as long as you want your best friend to be completely finished with him. Gu Duo snorted coldly. You know what? Suku asked for a divorce the day after she married my brother. This woman doesn't love my brother at all. Yi Huanyan had never seen Suku, but she heard from Gu Xinian that Suku was a woman who looked very gentle but was very stubborn. After she firmly believed that Gu Xinian didn't love her, but had someone else in his heart, she resolutely chose to leave. This was her freedom and also her help to Gu Xinian. If Gu Xinian had let her go at that time, it might have been a blessing. But even if he was willing, the Gu family wouldn't be willing. The Gu family wanted to save face. In the end, Wan Yi came forward and talked to Suku. For the sake of Gu Xinian's face, she could live in the Gu family for a year and then quietly divorce. At that time, she could go wherever she wanted to. Chapter 387. When the love between Suku and Gu Xinian was described by Gu Duo, it didn't seem to be as sentimental as when Gu Xinian and Yi Huanyan talked about it. It even made Yi Huanyan feel that it was her brother's wishful thinking. She didn't know if this feeling was an illusion or not. After Wan Yi persuaded Su Ku, she lived in the south court of the Four Seasons Villa for about a year. According to the agreement, she and Gu Xinian quietly went to divorce. Gu Xinian arranged a remote house for her to live in Florida, and she didn't refuse. She may have thought that my brother would still go to see her, but she didn't expect that until the child was born, my brother didn't go to see her. Su Ku died of dystocia. It sounded incredible, but in the state with the most advanced medical care in the United States, she died of dystocia. Before she died, she entrusted the child to Gu Duo. That was why Gu Duo broke the engagement that year. She took care of the child in Florida and hid it from the two elders of the Gu family. Later, Gu Xinian found out about it and brought the child back to the Four Seasons Villa regardless of anything. However, the child died the night after he brought it back. You see, how much does Su Ku hate my brother? How much does she hate the Four Seasons Villa? After she died, she didn't even let go of her own child. Yi Huanyan frowned and stared at the woman in front of her who was almost crazy. When she mentioned Su Ku, she couldn't control her emotions. When she mentioned Gu Xinian, she was full of tenderness. Her whole person seemed to be distorted as she immersed herself in her performance. She felt that part of Gu Duo's words was credible, but the other part was not. Su Ku would never entrust her with anything that was not trustworthy, such as that child. As if seeing the doubt in Yi Huanyan's eyes, Gu Duo's eyes turned and returned to normal. She said slowly, "I've told you everything you want to know. Now, let's talk about the child." Su Ku grew up in an autonomous prefecture in a remote area in the south. Like her parents, she was a national minority and believed that people should be buried in peace after death. Only when their ashes were collected could they be reincarnated. Gu Duo grasped this point. She secretly hid the child's ashes and divided them into 10 parts, threatening Gu Xinian to agree to what she did. Gu Xinian felt guilty towards Su Ku. He was a cold person, but he did many things against his will for the child he had only seen a few times. Gu Duo looked at the glass bottle in Yi Huanyan's hand, and her eyes became gloomier. "So the thing in your hand is the child's ashes, number 9. Yi Huanyan's face turned pale, and her fingers trembled. She suddenly felt that her palm was very hot. If it weren't for her reason telling her that this thing was important to Gu Xinian, she really couldn't hold it. No wonder. No wonder she heard her mother talk about Gu Xinian's strange behavior for many years. Perhaps those strange behaviors were because of this thing. Number 9, and the other one? Yi Huanyan calmed down and looked at Gu Duo coldly. Gu Duo sneered. "You are quite calm." When that woman knew about this, she was so scared that she ran away from the Four Seasons Villa. That woman was my brother's original fiancée. They broke off the engagement 10 years ago. But 8 years ago, after Su Ku died, she still had the cheek to visit our house. She may have thought that she could occupy a place in the villa after Su Ku left. What a wishful thinking. I don't want to know about this. Where is the other one? You promised me that as long as I did what you said, you would give it to me. Yi Huanyan looked at Gu Duo with a frown, and was a little impatient. In the middle of the night, she was full of anger and had to listen to a hateful woman talk so much in her house. It was really a headache. For the sake of the relationship between Gu Xinian and Ji Xiaoye, she was worried and sacrificed a lot. She didn't know how to explain it to Ling Han later. I said that I would give it to you, but I didn't say that I would give it all to you. What if you go back on your word and go to Ling Han to explain it? Do you think I'm stupid? Gu Duo glanced at her and picked up her bag on the sofa. I've said what I should say. I'm tired. Where is the bedroom? Yi Huanyan suddenly looked up. Are you going to live here? What's wrong? Can't I? You don't need a room here, do you? Yi Huanyan twitched the corner of her mouth. Are you going to monitor me every minute of every day? Now that you mention it, I'll monitor you at the same time. When I'm in a good mood, maybe I'll give the last one to you. At this moment, Yi Huanyan was a little regretful. She raised her voice and said, Hey, are you done? Gu Duo acted as if she didn't hear her. She went straight to the bedroom and didn't regard herself as an outsider at all. When she reached the bedroom door, she suddenly thought of something. She turned around and asked, "Where did you get the abortion certificate?" Yi Huanyan sat on the sofa angrily. Her face was pale as she said angrily, "You're too nosy, aren't you? 5 years ago, when I was about to die, my brother signed the notice of critical illness in the operating room. But I didn't agree to the operation." Gu Duo raised her eyebrows and showed an indifferent expression. "Oh. What kind of person was she?" Yi Huanyan was furious. The next day, Yi Huanyan packed up and prepared to fly to Paris with the crew. Gu Duo came out of the bedroom dressed neatly. She was wearing Yi Huanyan's clothes. She didn't stand on ceremony. "I heard that you're going to Paris." She leaned against the sofa with her arms crossed. Yi Huanyan nodded angrily. "Are you going with me?" "That's not necessary." "How long will you be gone for?" "At least a month." It would take at least a month to finish the rest of the scenes. "Oh, then you can go." Gu Duo glanced at her and said in a meaningful tone, "I asked Mr. Ling out for dinner today. You hurt him badly yesterday. I'll drink with him to relieve his boredom." Yi Huanyan's face turned pale. "What are you trying to do? Didn't I tell you yesterday? I'm going to give up on my brother and find someone else. After all, I've wasted a lot of time over the years. It's not easy to find someone I like, so I can't let go of him, right?" Gu Duo's words made Yi Huanyan feel like she was dreaming. She had been talking to her in a roundabout way. In the end, she wanted to steal Ling Han away, but in fact, she didn't seem to have done anything out of line. Yi Huanyan suspected her real purpose, but she also believed that Ling Han wouldn't be fooled by her. After glancing at the time on her wrist, she closed her suitcase and got up. "Gu Duo, I don't care what you want to do, but you'd better live up to your conscience." Gu Duo looked down at her diamond-studded nails and said with a look of disdain, "How much is conscience worth?" On the way to the airport, Yi Huanyan called both Gu Xinian and Ji Xiaoye. She wanted to remind Gu Xinian about Gu Duo, but she couldn't get through. After asking Gu Qi, she found out that the two of them had gone on a trip after last night. Chapter 388. Both of their phones were turned off, and there was no news at all. Who was going to clean up such a mess in Lanjiang City? Yi Huanyan hurriedly instructed Gu Qi to keep an eye on Gu Duo during this period of time at the airport. Then, she stepped into the security checkpoint with a worried expression. The plane took off and left Lanjiang City. She sat on the plane, pulled down the shades, and sighed deeply. She hoped that Ling Han had enough patience to wait for her to think of a way to solve the problem in front of her, and then let bygones be bygones. The moment she was threatened by Gu Duo, she suddenly realized that humans were really creatures who didn't know what was good for them. When there was peace and quiet in front of them, they didn't want to die. It wasn't until the wind and rain disturbed their peaceful days that they realized that peace and quiet was real. Su Nianhua, who was sitting beside her, was stunned when he heard her sigh. He hesitantly took off the earpiece on his right ear and handed it to her. He asked softly, "Want to listen to music?" Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She nodded hesitantly and plugged the earpiece into her left ear. Soothing music played. The lyrics were beautiful, and so was the melody. Gradually, she felt sleepy and closed her eyes. Su Nianhua was originally focused on listening to the music. Suddenly, he felt a weight on his shoulder. He was stunned and his body stiffened for a few seconds. In the end, he carefully spread out the blanket and covered Yi Huanyan's body. Then, he pulled down the blindfold and closed his eyes to rest, allowing Yi Huanyan to lean on his shoulder and sleep. Before he came, he sent Jingjing to Zhang Rou's side. He heard Zhang Rou say something about Gu Huanyan. Because he left in a hurry, he didn't hear her in detail. He only felt that it was inconceivable. He even thought that she was deliberately testing him to see if he still had any feelings for the past. He was really unhappy. After all, It was too much to use a person who had already passed away to joke or throw a tantrum. However, the faint fragrance of orchids wafted from his side, and he was still stunned. He needed a relatively quiet environment to think about what was going on. In the same cabin, diagonally across them, a man wearing a cap was fiddling with a camera in his hand. The moment Su Nianhua put on the blindfold, he took a lot of photos of them. Just as he was feeling smug, a crisp voice suddenly sounded beside him. "What are you filming? Let me see." The man in the baseball cap felt guilty. He was stunned for a moment before realizing that the voice came from beside him. He glanced at the girl sitting beside him and said impatiently, "What does it have to do with you?" The little girl was wearing casual sportswear with a red soundproof earpiece hanging around her neck. She didn't show any displeasure when she heard what he said. She just moved her hand and grabbed the man's wrist. The man let out a muffled groan as she grabbed his neck. He couldn't make a single sound. Half a minute later, the camera fell into the little girl's hands. After deleting all the photos of Su Nianhua and Yi Huanyan, she threw it on the man's lap. "I'm warning you. If you dare to take photos again, my hand just moved 2 inches or pinched you for a few minutes. Then you can apply for a disabled person's license." The man in the baseball cap felt aggrieved when the news he took so much effort to get was deleted. He touched his neck and asked, "I have no grudge against you. What are you doing? Are you Su Nianhua's fan?" "Me." The little girl pointed in the direction of Yi Huanyan, who was sleeping in the distance. "I'm his sister." Sitting next to the man in the baseball cap was Chen Yin. And sitting next to Chen Yin, dozing off by the window, was Naneo. Chen Yin had been paying attention to the man in the baseball cap for a long time. The paparazzi were really willing to spend a lot of money to take photos. They followed him to Paris. "Is your line of work very profitable? You followed him to Paris to take photos. Su Nianhua is now popular again?" Chen Yin asked the reporter very gossipy. The reporter was a little afraid of her and shook his head submissively. "I didn't come to take photos of Su Nianhua. I just saw him like this with another woman and wanted to take a photo. If he cheated, the news of cheating could sell a lot of money, but I really didn't come to take photos of him." "Who is that?" Chen Yin looked around and her eyes fell behind Su Nianhua. "Shang Anren?" The reporter shook his head. "Guan Nai. I heard that Guan Nai was going to Paris to shoot, so I came to follow the news of Guan Nai." "Guan Nai?" Chen Yin shook her head. "I heard that you reporters have to keep it a secret when you chase people. Isn't it not very good to tell me like this?" "It's okay. We'll take photos when we get to Paris. There's a fashion show in Paris. Guan Nai will definitely go." As soon as he finished speaking, a figure in the front seat turned around slowly and took off the eye mask on her face. There was no expression on her jade-like face, and her voice was cold. "I don't plan to go to the fashion show. Also, lower your voice. You're disturbing my sleep." Chen Yin clearly saw the muscles on the reporter's face tremble. Guan Nai. Probably out of professional habit, Guan Nai subconsciously picked up the camera. When she turned around, she glanced at Chen Yin lightly and said lightly, "I'm going to sleep." Chen Yin looked like she had received the order and snatched the camera away. "Brother, let me take care of the camera first, in case you can't help but take photos of everyone in the cabin." This cabin was practically booked by the cast of Remaining Life. With so many A-list and B-list celebrities gathered here, any photo or two would be big news. But there was a wolf in front and a tiger behind, so he couldn't take photos even if he wanted to. The reporter himself felt very sad. Halfway through the flight, Naneo woke up. After rubbing his eyes, he climbed over Chen Yin and the sleepy reporter to Yi Huanyan's seat and stared blankly at Su Nianhua. Su Nianhua raised his hand and put his index finger to his lips to make a shushing gesture. "Shh." Naneo touched his chin thoughtfully and stared at his mother, who was drooling in her sleep, and whispered, "I think if my mother wakes up and finds out that she drooled on your shoulder, she'll be even more embarrassed than she is now, so it's better to push her to the side." Su Nianhua couldn't help but smile and nod helplessly. He straightened her head and leaned her back against the seat, then pulled out 2 tissues to wipe the drool on his shoulder. Naneo didn't want to care about his mother, so he climbed onto the empty seat next to Su Nianhua and asked in a low voice, "Do you like my mother? She's single now, so if I speak up for you, she'll more or less consider my opinion." Su Nianhua was very familiar with Naneo, so he knew that this child's thoughts were different from other children's and couldn't be treated with common sense, so he smiled. "I'm married. Don't you know my wife? She's Jingjing's mother." Hearing this, Naneo shrugged. "What's the big deal? The divorce rate is so high now, and Jingjing told me 2 days ago that you and Auntie Xiao Rou are getting a divorce." Su Nianhua's expression changed. "Jingjing told you? Why does she think so?" You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.